Hey everybody, welcome to my adventure rating session for tonight. I don't know which one this is, but what number it is. But tonight we're going to pick up where we left off with Paul last time we were here. Um, it is. Let me lost my paper, and then I got to go over to Facebook and make sure it's streaming over there too. All that good stuff that you got to do. I don't know why Facebook does that. They default it to show yourself. I know Joe complains about it often, and I completely agree with him on this one. Yeah, there it is. For some reason, it always has a lock and it says only me. So I got to go to public. I don't know how many people watch on Facebook, anyways, but might as well share it wherever I can and go from there. There might be some other guys jumping on. I think Mike might be getting on, Advance might be getting on, and then I think Ken's out and Paul is iffy. So we'll see. Not a problem. So let me share you what we were working on last time. There it is. Screen share. Windows. I haven't really touched this since Paul and I were working on it the other kind of. I did work on a new map, so we kind of just did a very bare bones, kind of figured out what was in each location, each hex there. Had lots of audience participation last time. It was a lot of fun. We had a lot of folks on it. Yeah, somehow we ended up with French Dwarf Fur Traders, um, which why not? Yeah, that's so funny. And then we got some general ideas of what we got some gnoll slavers in there, and this Overwatch checking out this feral elf cave. So we got to watch out for those. The frog demon temple, and then we got the black vein mine over here. So this is the one we came up with, and then I reworked this map in Encarta. I couldn't remember what the names of like when I was doing Encarta, I didn't have um, access to this file because it was on a different computer. And let me show you what I came up with. I mean, I think it looks cool, but sometimes the old school stuff looks play screen sharing, and there we go. So this is the one so this is Encarta. I think you can see a little bit better. So I kind of fleshed it out in color. I think it looks pretty nice, actually. I like how it came out. If I do this in a zine thing, I'll still keep it black and white because it's just easier to print out. But I might just offer it as just a fun free PDF, and then I will probably keep the color and whatnot. But I think it looks pretty good. Simple to read, and that's what you want in a map. You want to be able to find the details easily. Now, see, there's this cave over here. We never did really say what it was. Let me check my map again, my other map again, real quick. Yeah, so there's a cave over in that thing, and we never said what it was. Will we figure that out tonight? I don't know. And one of my favorite concepts is this is the wrong name. Let me get the right names let's see here. Let me get back to the black and white here. Is that it? No. Okay. Oh, I don't even know what that does. Where is my publisher? All looks the same to me. Let me drop this one down, guys. All right. and we got to close my YouTube page because it's confusing me. I can't seem to do both at once. There we go. So we'll share this one. So one of the fun things that people came up with last time was the Austinburg Havenford town, and that it's embattled. Like it's battle. They can't even agree what name the town is called. And then there's like a small kind of river, creek, whatever you want to call it, that split the town in half. So it's physically divided into half, and then the name division in that. So oh, looks like we got somebody here. Oh, looks like Vance is showing up.
Hey, sorry.
Hey, Vance. Oh no, I did this. I always do these things at the last freaking minute. So I never expect anybody to show up because it's not like I plan anything.
Right. So what are you doing now? We're continuing the little hex creation here.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw any of that other one. I thought you were on it a
I
little
watched.
bit.
Yeah, I did actually watch part of it. Yeah. I can't
Yeah.
remember if I was driving or just sitting at home or where I was at the time. Probably
right.
out there in my, out there in the hinterlands somewhere.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, there's probably a lot better things to watch out there in the hinterlands, like just nature go by than
Right. Yeah. Watching whatever the wind was blowing by that particular day.
right. You got your own hex crawl going on there.
Yeah,
you don't need a fake.
Pretty much.
You don't need a fake one. You got a real one going on.
I mean,
there.
yeah. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. We went through a lot of terrain driving back, of course, and a lot of that stuff does have kind of some inspiration zone for for creation and writing, and kind of you sit there and think about some of that stuff when people were first.
Hey, Mike.
Hey, gentlemen.
Down the desert, kind of the corner, corner of the desert where John Wesley Powell first explored. And he was, first, white guy to go down the Grand Canyon and things, and you just kind of, drive over these vistas and kind of think about being some guy back in the 1800s first popping their head over this, going, where the hell did we find ourselves?
Well, yeah, but not only did he say he said, how do I get down to the bottom?
Yeah. How do I get down to the bottom and then keep going, kind of thing? Yeah. And the fact that he had, one arm and a bunch of, and some other, challenges that kept it. It's like,
I know, it's crazy.
Those guys are just, they're just another league. I don't, I can't comprehend some of the work that, explorers did.
Oh, absolutely. How you doing tonight, Mike?
I'm well. How are you guys? You're feeling better, Tim?
Yeah. No migraines today. Yeah.
Cheers.
Yep.
Walk it off, you wimp.
Vance, I know. Good to see you. You back home?
Yeah, I'm back in the in my own personal lair. Yeah.
That was cool. Yeah. So I don't know if I can't remember if you were in the other one, Mike, if you're in the crowd or you joined. I think it was just me and Paul. We were coming up with this hex. Had a lot of feedback from the crowd and everything at the time. I don't think we're going to get much crowd tonight because we're in heavy competition with a lot of other lives, and I always do stuff spur of the moment, anyways. So I have the section.
I'm learning that when you say, "Hey, I'm thinking of getting on," I need to move to my computer and get ready.
I think I did tell you guys at 1:00, so that's a pretty big.
Yeah, you were well ahead of schedle.
Yeah, it wasn't like 6:45.
About 30 minutes before. It's like, oh yeah, wait, just a second, let me hear.
Yeah, I'm thinking about going on, guys. You can jump on if you want. Here's the link. What? Wait, what? What are we doing?
Yeah, I had done a deal with Paul and looked at this and looked at his issue number 10 of Crit Happen, so I'm kind of familiar with it. But no, this is really interesting to see it getting fleshed out. And if I know it's a small thing, but I love the way he does the hex flowers, breaking up the hexes a little bit to give your mind just a little space on how to separate each concept and each terrain or biome and so forth.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I like that. I mean, I've been doing this kind of thing for 20 years or more, something like that. But I like this particular style of hex map where they are separated a little bit, gives the hexes a little room to breathe. So you can kind of, because I'll give you guys an example of when I was working on, I got a little carried away. And then, while I was doing it, it was a lot of fun. And then I stopped doing it, and then I went to go back to it, and I'm like, what the hell? I can barely read this thing. Let me see if I can find it here. Is that it?
Let's see if I.
There, I think this one is it. No. Of course, now I can't find it. I just was looking at it too. No, I can't. But I had like a zine-sized page filled with hexes, and I had them all detailed. Well, that's a lot of hexes to kind of glance at once and whatnot. And I prefer just what they call the hex flowers and stuff like that.
Yeah,
they're a little easier to maintain and keep track of and everything. But yeah, I mean, this is the general gist of it. So we have one of my favorite things, guys, is when the guys came up with this town in the middle. It's Austinburg / Havenford, because the people in the town can't agree on the name, and they're always fighting.
That's a very Civil War, a very American Civil War dynamic, where they name battle different things from the Union to the Confederacy.
Yeah, so it's a kind of like that concept, and then they have a river runs through it, so it's split by a little bit of a creek or whatever, or crick, depending on where you live. But yeah, there's some interesting things, and I was just talking about too. There's the one cave in the upper right-hand quadrant or hex there that we never detailed. We just left it alone. We didn't say what it was or anything. So tonight I thought I was just gonna break these down. We got the general idea of what's what, but I thought I would let's take it a step further and kind of give it a little bit more meat on the. And I don't know if you guys saw. So this is the hex that we drew real simple, and then I made. I'll show. Oops. Oh, I clicked the wrong thing. I'm getting a new computer, guys, because mine's old and doesn't like doing things the way it should anymore.
It sounds like my wife. Yeah, I can say that because she is never going to watch this.
I was going to say,
as long as she doesn't hear me downstairs, I'm okay.
There's a man, his safe distance, or his wife is out doing something. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you see a shoe fly in or something from the right, you know what?
Exactly. Or a noose.
Well, you live in Texas. We might hear a click of a hammer getting cocked back. Yeah.
Like the old
body bag being spread on the floor. Yeah. Setting up the kill room.
Yeah.
Dexter style. Yeah.
Yeah, I like the fur traders idea is fun. I've never seen that one explored with dwarves, but that would work perfectly.
Well, you'll like it because they're French dwarf fur traders. They're very specific about that. I don't know why.
Instead of Scottish accents, they're going to have your beloved French accents with the.
I guess so. I think that's why they picked it. I think that's why they did it at the time. I don't know. It was like, no, they're French ones. I'm like, okay then. So this is the one I did on Encarta the other day. Let's see if I can share this one. I mean, it's nice and it's fancy, but there's something very, I don't know, for just like straight black and white, but this was fun to do in Encarta. So.
Oh, slick.
Ooh. Ah.
Yeah. Ooh, ahs. Ooh, ahs. Yeah. So that's why I was saying, if if I was gonna print it out, I would just use black and white. But if we just release this as like a goofy free PDF or something like that, might go with the whole color version. I don't know. Depends.
Bonsoir, Monsieur Chubby. Chubby's first in the
Oh yeah, you got to work
cheering
in.
section. I say cheering section. Be careful. He may light us up with some commentary.
Oh yeah. He's definitely got got a lot of elbow room in the heckle gallery over there because I think he's the only one in there. So and then I don't know, Chubby, do you still have your sale going on, or did that conclude? Because I know he had a birthday sale where everything was 50%
that was awesome.
off.
Couldn't believe, his prices are already, just really reasonable, and then slashed them back even further.
And of course, I'd bought everything that I had initially wanted right before that. So
right,
so that triggered the sale to come.
Right, Greg thanks you for your haste.
Should we sing him happy birthday since it's here in May and be total fanboys? Or Greg, is it okay if we don't sing in English or French?
Yeah.
Right. Let me see here. So let's get up here. Austinburg. I can never remember the Havenford. That's what it is. I can never remember the second one. And then we can draw on your guys' American historical knowledge about what was going on during the Civil War. That was kind of similar to what's going on to this one. We can draw from some historical references.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, there's a lot of French fur traders in early, where some of the early explorers out in the area.
That would make sense. Yeah.
The Grand Piton.
Yeah, so there's a lot of French names and various passes and towns and rivers and stuff.
All right. So, all right. What kind of population are we looking at, guys? Is this what kind of size town do you think this should be?
Are we looking at kind of starting town kind of visual, or is this somewhere where, that sort of thing?
Sure. Why not?
Sure. I mean, sub 500, 250. I don't know.
How much did you say? I didn't hear you, Vince. How much? Population what? Well,
fewer than 500.
500? Okay.
Village size.
All right.
How much, I guess, what do we want to have for,
We got to have enough people that they want to fight each other and have leftovers.
You could have like 12 people, and that would be
602.
Yeah, but if they start beating each other up, fight will knock down half the people.
Well, I think the image is like the town is like probably also split by the river, and so it's Havenford's on one side and Lumpuckaroo or whatever is on the other side. Even though they're the same town.
So we'll put 500 in Austinburg, and we'll put how about like 350 in
we don't know the nature of the
side. It's a little bit, and they're all the town decisions are therefore going to be gerrymandered, according to taxes and whatever local leadership and stuff, and so somebody's always getting the short end of the stick.
And we don't know the nature of the fight either. It could be just two inept villages fighting a pillow fight that's going on,
or
no one ever really gets killed. They just threaten a lot, and how many adults of combat age are they going to have to be able to produce out of a village of 5?
They
mercenaries, I guess.
They resolve their differences by the annual rugby game or something.
I was actually thinking of something that they would have, maybe during the summer solstice, they have some sort of competition between the two sides to decide, who.
It's like, the ball's like an inflated goat's bladder or something, and or inflated, like just the headless goat thing, like or that. I want to say it's Mongol or Afghani, basically polo this beheaded goat that they run back and forth between two goals. Yeah, it's something like that.
Well, especially if that's going to be kind of your base and you're going to go on these side things and other hexes and then come back periodically.
The place to still be standing.
You may not want a really nasty hell of a war battle going on.
Well, like a friend, like a disagreement, or they're not going to go to like wage war, and slaughter each other, but they're basically like, I don't know.
What if they each had a mangonel and they were flinging, a head back and forth periodically, and it keeps getting grosser and more beat up and just really decayed.
It's kind of like the extreme version of an egg catching contest.
Wow, that's good.
Actually, I think it's pretty good. Yeah. Let me see here. All right. So why don't we go to let's see here. So why are they fighting, guys? Give it what would be a good reason for them.
Are they primarily humans, Tim?
We haven't decided that yet. We have really all we kind of figured out on this one is the names of this place, and that the reason why they have two names is because they fight about dumb stuff.
Yeah.
So we can make it human, dwarf. Like I said, kind of making this for Shadow Dark, so I can use it in the Shadow Dark kind of vein.
Somewhat.
So it doesn't matter to me whether they're dwarven, elven,
or multi-ancestral, if that's a word.
Yep. Whatever.
Well, the reason they're at war is easy if they're humans, because that's what we do and always have. And do
that's
really
what we do best. Yeah. They don't have anything. They don't have a common enemy yet. So
right.
And you have dwarves nearby right there in the east. So maybe
dwarven fur traders, but they're not living there probably because they're like, I ain't living with those crazy sons of bitches. I'm not
exactly.
And then we got the rabid elves to the north and slaver gnolls to the west.
I would like to see a mercenary company of goblins under a leader named Columbo. That would be rich.
Yeah, I think that's because Blog is out of pocket.
And when they're in town, all they want to do is go shopping from place to place. They don't.
Right. They spend a lot of money. Yeah. Remember Cleopatra, the old movie with
Liz Taylor.
Remember they landed in Egypt and they were ready for some kind of conflict, and the guy said, "No, we're not going to walk in there first. We're going to shop our way through." Because they had all the stands, and so they shopped their way into Egypt. Yep. So mercenary company led by a dwarf named Columbo.
For a goblin. If you want to inject some human, well, you have gnolls too. Maybe the gnolls are involved over to the west, and on the east, the dwarves are there under some license by the lord of one of the towns, and they're allowed to do a deal there.
Let's see there. A goblin mercenary company led by a dwarf named Columbo, right? Is that what you guys?
Sure, why not?
That was a joke sideswipe.
Until we get better.
As you both know, but we could name him something else.
Oh, Joe loves being mentioned.
He loves the attention. Call him Kojak or Mannix or something.
Yeah, I think he's already got a Kojak. Yeah, so that was his previous one. And then the only reason he has a Snickle in there is because he was trying to insult Matt Jackson.
He could be Macmillan and his wife.
I think his next one's, I think he says it's going to be Beretta.
With the parrot. Or the teal, whatever that was.
Yeah. So
Debbie says a half French, half elf named
They're going to be there's the level of snootiness.
Just elevated
charts.
It could be a bard that does the can.
And no matter what language you speak, they're going to speak to you in a different language.
All right.
Why are they fighting? I guess.
What's some of the history for this place?
They share a river. That could be a bonus.
They share a river. I would. Yeah, I'm actually looking. I'm thinking of actual Seattle history because there's a little it's big trivia because it's indelible on our landmark. Is the streets don't line up in downtown because the two kind of founding fathers of the city kind of disagreed what coordinates to survey on. So there's a bunch of streets that hit each other at like this angle.
Okay.
So
right.
it was essentially two big landowners, laying those. So something like that's not not out of the ordinary. Wouldn't be too big of a reach of like, it was like, somebody planted their flag on one side, somebody planted their flag on the other side, and then there's always been this grumbling disagreement on who was there first, who's kind of had the who had the naming rights, who bought their flag, that sort of thing.
What if it's generational and that happened 300 years ago?
Oh yeah,
right.
Family clans have kept going. Maybe the two original explorers who settled there were brothers, and one brother took one side and the other brother. So basically, these people are almost identical.
Yep.
Same religion, same whatever else. The only thing they have, not that humans would ever do that.
Right.
Right. So
Romulus and Remus gone bad.
Right. That's what I'm kind of thinking that too. So brothers,
I remember this short story once, like these aliens observing like these humans, and these human settlers had come up on a river, and there was it was kind of this intergenerational thing of like these aliens that were like really long lived or very slow, and so the humans were acting really quickly. And every time they glance, something different happened. It's like, okay, they have one church, they have one temple, and then the next scene was, okay, they now have two temples, and they're fighting each other.
Well, there's your example right there. You were talking about Seattle, Vance. I know here in Houston, at one point, we had 3 Starbucks on the same corner. And the comedian, what was his name? The old guy used to get angry all the time.
Like Lewis Black or something like
Lewis
that.
Black. Yeah, it was Lewis Black. And he had a bit about he knew he was at the nexus of the universe because there were 3 Starbucks on one corner. But there's your Seattle tie-in, I guess.
Pretty much, yeah.
Joe could be represented by an NPC that can hear the players' conversations. Yeah. Or constantly interrupt their conversations. Yeah. We got Michael in the house where he's seen that Star Trek episode. I think I have too, Michael. There's probably been 3 episodes of Star Trek with that same theme running through it.
So the river obviously is a major transportation source also. So maybe they're fighting over boats coming up and down to take the dwarves' furs and trade those down the river, up and down the river. And they're fighting over who's getting that business.
Right.
Okay.
I guess we need to decide how big the river is. So we're talking about Nars or Carricks or
Right.
I mean, you're not gonna have a caravel, something. They'd have to be flat river boats,
like a flat boat or something like that. I would say.
Yeah, shallow draft of some sort.
Yeah,
that sounds like a Rob Conley thing. We have to know river depths. We'll need a map of the river. The river topography.
Yeah, you have to plot out a hydrograph of the river during the season.
Oh man, you guys are giving Rob shit, and I'm not even included in that. That's great.
I don't even know the poor guy that well. He's probably going, "Who is this jerk?" He's not wrong.
Because I always, I was the one that was giving him shit for putting air currents and water currents in the first. He led his book with that. And I'm like, oh no, Rob, don't do that. Jeez, oh man,
that's like an appendix,
Right, that's what I told him. Put it at the end of the book. Don't bore him right in the beginning. I was like, jeez, oh man. I was like, do you realize all your arrows are going to the same way? So it doesn't really. It's like air currents this way, water currents this way. It's like. I don't know, but Rob has to do his thing.
Right.
I'll make sure when he does his next Kickstarter, I'll give him shit about it on an interview or something like that again. So I'll hold up his picture. So Rob, which way is the water supposed to go? Is this what we do? We have to draw these lines in your campaign world? Where do you do that? Okay, so
first thing you do, you draw all of these air currents and stuff like that. And you take that piece of paper, wad it up, and throw it away.
That's right.
Well, it's funny. Rob came up because I think we should admit to anyone who hasn't seen the other videos that that Flint has done. You know, he is going from Rob's process from his book, which Tim, you know the name of the book offhand. I can't remember what it's called. I don't have it, but I'm going to get
How to build a fantasy sandbox.
Sandbox, yeah.
Oh yeah.
How to make a fantasy sandbox.
Yeah, I've got it around here somewhere too.
Yep, right here. And then he's going to be releasing his next Kickstarter at the end of the month. And that's going to be his actual sandbox, his Majestic Wilderlands sandbox itself. So I think he says he's going to release that on the 28th. And he made a little video of it. It's a very Rob video. It suits him well. I think it's kind of funny. He's there in his beret in the backwoods of Pennsylvania, you know, talking about, you know, his Kickstarter and getting all excited about it. Yeah, he put out some money for the video, so it's good to see him kind of get excited about it. So I'm going to help him out. I'm going to do some editing, but I'm not going to do line editing. I'm going to do like flavor editing for him. So I'll just go through it, make things. So I don't know if anybody knows the difference between the two, but you know, line editing is checking for punctuation and spelling, or flavor editing is just like, well, this makes sense here. You got it, these themes. Why don't you tie it in and bring it out a little bit more in this section? Or this part's not as juicy as your other part. Why don't we add a little bit of this so it kind of matches the level of interest or flavor that you've got going in this? So I try to help him see patterns in his own work and try to get things to tie in a little bit better and whatnot. So, and then I know Rob's writing pretty well, so I can tell. Sometimes Rob writes when he's tired, and I can always tell when he's tired and he's writing. It's
the only time I write. What do you mean?
Yeah, that's the only time I do anything anymore.
Yeah, you have time to find time for this stuff, right?
Right. Yeah, because otherwise I would never do anything. All right. So the original. So there's two brothers who settled in land over 300 years ago. They had different ideas of. Are they going to be? Is the main idea going to be the actual like economics of the place, or is it going to be maybe a religious schism?
Yeah, I think religious, because that's the whole theme of his Land of the Gods and everything. Maybe there has the two brothers.
Well, this isn't Paul's thing. This is just something we were just doing.
Yeah. Oh, I apologize then. Okay, I was mistaken. I thought it was.
No, I just kind of was rolling it up on the. What was I was using this. I love this little book, Sandbox Generator.
Oh yeah, sure.
It's a really good book, and it's a nice generic one. I've written a shit ton in this one, and then I've made my own tables to mess around with, because I expanded like his settlements where he just had like 6 different ones. I have about 20 different ones in there to give it a little bit more range and whatnot. So, because I mean, like if you're doing a hex crawl and you're doing then you roll a 3 and you got to do a city, it's like all of a sudden your workload just multiplied by 1 billion. That's like I don't want to do a city.
Hey, Mark.
Mark, hey, how you doing? Mark. Yeah, I just figured we'd get on tonight, Mark, and piss around with this hex crawl again. Mark was a big help last time during it. And,
Tim, just a suggestion, but it might be better than looking at the 3 of us. Maybe if we pull the map up, or
yeah, I forgot I did not share it again. I gotta share it back again. There we go. I just have because there's the map, guys, that we did from before, just to share it with everybody again that we're working on. And we're working on Austinburg and Havenford, just trying to kind of beat out some details, some basic details for the town. So far we've got 2 brothers settled the land over 300 years ago. They had different, we're going to say religious ideas. We're going for that then?
Yep. Sure, why not?
If you're doing it for Shadow Dark, of course, you can explore that with the deities and so forth.
Yeah, I have my Pantheon too for my campaign that I use and whatnot. There's plenty of those, and then I like to just kind of create some as I go. There's a few out there that I've like Paul. He basically created a whole civilization for me with his doom singers and everything. And I've had like Greg there. He created the god of silence. What was his name? Puce. Yeah, god of Puce, god of silence, and he's now in part of my what do you want to call it? Religious Parthenon or whatever you want to call it.
Pantheon.
Pantheon. Thank you. Yeah. What else I got over here?
So does each side have a an ally, as it were? The one on the west side of the river would be allied maybe with the gnolls, and the one on the east side maybe allied with the dwarves from the.
So they want to be more open to slave traders then on the west side. You've got a little bit more darker tint.
Maybe that's it. And the dwarves and humans on the west side, are more progressive. Never mind. Forget I said that. They're more open-minded.
Egalitarian has that, yeah.
They're not slavers. How about we'll leave it at that?
The east side, it finds it more problematic.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see here. What are some what are some of the interesting sites in the town, like maybe historical locations or places of interest that people go?
Oh, God. There's the old hanging tree. You got to have that.
Well, the west side is allied with the gnolls, I would imagine, or tolerate the gnolls, that maybe they'd be a little more gritty or have maybe a bigger slum district with, gambling and brothels and things and, seedier stuff. And on the right side, they're the goody two-shoes. I can say on the left and right. On the east side with the dwarves, maybe they're a little more lawful.
Yeah, if you start slinging a little left and right, then people are.
Well, there you go. Go back to Kelsey's idea in the core rule book. Maybe you have a cathedral district or a temple or a shrine or something that's much more revered on the lawful west side.
Sure.
East side. and on the gnoll side, on the other side, it's the seedy slum district and maybe
Well, it's one of those things of like the two brothers showed up, they settled, and then one of them got fell off the wagon or whatever like that. Said, "Screw you! I'm going to go set up my town on the other side of the river, or my half of town over on the other side of the river, and you guys can stay over here and worship your goody two shoes god or whatever."
You and your
and I'm going to go and we're going to go and take advantage of this land in our own ways.
All right. So the west side. So we got it being the seedy side and whatnot. I like that. All right. So we'll get to. So we'll move the old hanging tree over to the west side.
Okay.
Make that over there. Why is it a place there? Why is it like what? How many people have they hung there, Vance?
Oh God! Do I need a random number generator?
if you got one in your head, just pull out a number. Yeah,
396. No, I don't.
Love it. Yeah. That is a lot, but I love it.
That's a lot of people. That's more than one per year.
Well, that's
there's a couple of really bad years there.
Yeah, that's almost the population of the town. But I like
it.
Yeah.
Most of them were visitors that they hung.
Well, you would think
that really help hurting the tourist business or helping it, perhaps, depending on the.
What I'll do is
come join in our hanging ceremony.
Right. Yeah. But like most things, most folklore, there's a little bit, there's 369 or 96 people have been hung from this thing, or so they say.
Yeah, exactly. Been like, two guys back in 1492.
Yeah, it was just John and his brother Ted who got hung because they got drunk and just see who could last the longest. Yeah. They were going to have a contest, and it's like, I'll go first, but they didn't hear they both said it at the same time, and they weren't able to help each other get off the ropes. And they hung themselves. Yeah. All right.
And if you're going to have a hanging tree, all those bodies had to eventually after they were hung and gibbeted or whatever, they had to be buried. So you probably have a cemetery somewhere.
Right.
All right.
Which opens up to undead and creepiness. And
exactly.
We'll make it, let's see, put the Brewstone Cemetery.
Well, that sounds like you should have a beer when you're going there to lay flowers on something.
Well, that's what I was. Well, no, that's not because what I was thinking of doing is having the cemetery in front of a tavern.
Well, that makes sense.
That way, they, you guys, you got to walk through the cemetery. You know how they always pour 40 on the curb.
Yeah.
This they go buy a drink and then go outside and pour it on their, maybe a friend's grave out there.
Yeah. So the tradition is instead of laying flowers for a friend, you go pee on their headstone when you leave the tavern.
Exactly.
That's the tradition.
Yeah, you pour a drink on your friends and piss on your enemies.
Yeah, we got. Oh, yeah, and we got the important question from Michael Stengel of this: Are there star-crossed lovers from opposite sides of the rivers causing consternation?
Romeo and Juliet here.
Of course, there are
Montagues and Capulets.
Yeah. We have more teen suicides in this town than anybody.
Right. Right. Around the town. Okay. All right. So we got the old hanging tree, the Brewstone Tavern. I'll just highlight these so I can find them. That sounds like a fun little detail there. I like that. Yeah. That's kind of fun. How about what's an interesting, we have a location and everything. What's an interesting store that would be something like a unique store that would be on the bad, seedy side?
Unique store?
Yeah, maybe it doesn't exactly have to be a store. Maybe it's, maybe it's a place, could be a shop,
right.
Could be a ruin, maybe,
right.
Or something that's got a little bit of a different angle than you'll find in any other. It's definitely an Austinburg location that you wouldn't find anywhere else.
What about a charnel house?
Okay. Charnel house. What do they do? What do they do? What do they sell?
I had to look it back up again because I have one of my other 5e campaigns. But a building or vault in which corpses or bones are piled, a place associated with violent death. And, of course, stinks for blocks and blocks and blocks.
Right.
All right. Charnel house. What's going to make it unique, though?
They also have an attached sandwich shop.
They got a New Jersey Subs next to it.
They have a rib house next door.
New Jersey Mike's.
Jersey Mike's.
Jersey Mike's.
Run by a gnoll.
Well, a lot of it, you could also have things like, like a charnel house and whatever like that, where it's also like, a lot of the guys at Monster Hunters and stuff like that are bringing in these sort of trophy things like that. So, out back, you're going to see like these skulls with weird horns on them and, and just weird trophies being dragged in.
Yeah, well, Mark was just saying a black market monster body parts for sale.
Exactly.
Yeah, great, Mike. Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
I borrowed this trope from old Edinburgh a couple of centuries ago. They had these guys, what were they called? The resurrectionists, I think.
Yeah.
Who were actually,
getting
the bodies.
For the medical students and stuff.
They got to the point where they were killing people to bring the bodies in to sell.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Which I think
got to guarantee freshness,
Is that part of the Black Company? Does that story happen there where the guy is going with the bodies, or is that another book?
I don't remember that in the Black Company.
He's one of the side characters who runs the the tavern. I can't remember.
Could be it's been so. I mean, I've read the Black Company,
and they all start to mix together. Yeah.
It's been so. I mean, I've probably read that series like 5 or 6 times, but it's also probably been 15, 20 years since I've read it too. So
I'm looking at this Google search on a charnel house, and it mentions skeletal remains. So skeletons, and they have pictures that are just rows and rows of skulls.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
also reminds me of like there's the photos of like the bison,
right,
bison
that pile.
extermination or hunting, during the railroad years, where they have similar things like these huge stacks of like hides because that's all they took, or huge stacks of bones and skulls because they were grinding them up for some other resource like bone meal for fertilizer and things.
Yeah.
So and there because of that there's like this always like this cloud of like buzzards and stuff over that corner.
Oh, good that's a good detail.
And it's usually downwind, but sometimes the wind shifts and both the towns just get hammered by this.
we might even have a dark shrine on that side of the river with maybe to Memnon. That's the one of the chaotic gods who's really dark and evil and fucked up.
Over on there is what kind of place would it be? Were you saying, Mike, again?
Maybe a shrine to Memnon or Shun the Vile, one of those two chaotic gods, and it uses carrion like buzzards and crows and that kind of symbolism.
Okay. Sure, that sounds good. So, like, we're thinking buzzards and vultures and stuff like that.
Oh my!
Yeah,
yeah, buzzards, vultures.
Pretty much any bird.
Right.
Or anything you can find in a bestiary that eats dead stuff.
Right. Yeah.
Obviously, in a charnel house, that's a great opportunity to have a catacomb.
To chase off a harpy every once in a while.
Yeah.
The charnel house may have a catacomb underneath it, also with ghouls and a crypt or a tomb or something.
Right. They just get these raids every once in a while from like things like that. Yeah.
So if your characters are more lawful and they're across the river, they might have a side hustle or a side quest to go and get inside the catacomb and recover something. Or
all right, yeah. Let's see, man. And I'm gonna highlight the catacombs. Got to have a catacombs. It's always good to have a catacombs because that can always be a lead into some sort of jacked up mega dungeon if you want to do that, or big ass dungeon, or just send them to hell like I did Vance that one.
Yeah, that's as you do.
As you do. It happens. It happens.
Not that he didn't deserve it, but
oh, he volunteered. He's like,
it's
better. It's better to rule in hell.
Blog was a noble
servant
character. Yeah.
Blog's philosophy is better to rule in hell than run away in the Comor Forest.
Yeah, exactly.
That's Kramer.
He weighed his odds and picked the best.
He thought hell he had his better chance. So what would be on the east side? Now we got to actually think of good things, guys.
Oh, that's tough.
Yeah. So what would be an interesting landmark or two over on the east side?
Well, there's the I use like Beheens in my campaign, which were kind of religious mystics and charity workers and stuff. So something like that, where you have like the charity house, the way.
How do you spell that, Vance? Beheens?
Oh God,
you got me on that one. I don't think.
What was it?
Yeah,
I don't know this. Beheens?
It's Beguines.
Oh, like begin to begin.
Yeah.
So what are those again, Vance? They're
they're kind of religious adjacent. They're not necessarily like nuns and monks, but they still take kind of like vows of poverty and things like that. But they they both do charity, and then they also often have like craft type, thing roles like seamstresses or
Okay.
cobblers or something like that to support themselves. So they got the wayward travelers home.
So they kind of what I call light trades to kind of
Yeah,
earn an income.
right.
Are they kind of so they've got more of a religious angle?
Yeah, a little bit more. Yeah, there are definitely more. I mean, a lot of them were definitely like, you know, mystics to the point of a few of them being considered heretics or at least suspicious by the powers that be.
Okay, I like that. They sound like they're
So
like good intentioned gypsies or something like that. Or
yeah, a little bit. I mean, so they could be loosely associated or with whatever temple's there, but
yeah,
they're not necessarily under
right.
the kind of administration of that church.
Okay, I like that. Who are we going to do with the temple there? What's the temple going to be there, or the church, or whatever it's going to be?
I was thinking about Saint Taragnus, and you could have a small group of what are the knights called? The Idris thing. I'm looking for it now. I forgot. In Shadow. I mean, I didn't forget. I just don't remember exactly what it's called. They're pretty dark themselves, but they're serving a lawful order instead. So that would be balanced with Memnon and Orshun.
Oh, so this is more okay.
So maybe they were crusaders and they're sent there to guard a small tower on the border to keep the gnolls at bay, but they're really too small of a cadre to do much about it, other than work with the dwarves and the other forces trying to keep the baddies across the river.
Well, we also, I mean, they could be associated possibly if we go back to this. There's the Overwatch, which is a tower over there that keeps like these weird little elves over there. We could maybe make them associated with the Overwatch.
Yeah, there you go.
Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's like and they cycle back and they would cycle.
They could ride to
or
town.
like they're when they're off of their their duty and stuff like that, and some may slip across the river every once in a while for a little tie one on, but
right. Okay. Yeah. All right. So the response for me. Let's so Saint Taragnus, I'll just kind of highlight that too. Manning Overwatch Tower, and that. So
they're the Knights of Saint Idris. It's actually from Curse Scroll number 1. I was like, that's why I wanted in the core book. If you wanted to use them, or you could just make up your own group of knights. Whatever.
Well, I say we just use those as like a good foundation. I mean, there's no reason to. I mean, if somebody else has done a little bit of the lifting for us, I'm willing to take it.
We can always just file off the serial numbers. It's fine.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And then it's kind of cool. They got that. I don't know if you guys got it recently. That it's a Dark Visions one that came out with Jeffrey Jones. They have a. Let me see if I can pull this out without knocking. I got a
or not.
Knight of Saint Cher. I think it's the one you just said. Taragnus.
Oh, Taragnus. Yeah, that's one of the core deities, which I thought was weird having a saint as a deity, but I don't think Kelsey cares much about what I think. But I'm sure she does, and she'd be happy to discuss it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I think a lot of the term saint, because I don't use the term saint too much in my game, but I do like having saint-like figure. I mean, I do like using it though, because when you look in the rich mythology of saints, I mean, it's just ripe for picking. I mean, there were some crazy fucking saints out there.
Well, I'm going to have to insert something here just quickly. You guys saw my first zine, and not to be too self-promotional, but the second...
No, bring it on, Mike.
The second one I'm working on the one shot now, but the rest of it's all written up, is called Saints of the Shadow Dark. And it has...
Saints of the Shadow Dark.
Saints of the Shadow Dark. It has religious orders. It has dark saints and light saints and all those related themes and so forth.
Okay,
So
that's cool. Yeah, and you got your first ones already out and about then, Mike, right?
I'm playing with throwing it on the website and sticking it up for sale on the website. And
Okay, are you going to put it on RPG drive-through?
I probably will. I mean, I'd be foolish not to. It'll expose it to a ton more people. So
yeah. And the reason why people like doing that, the reason why I like doing that is because then my whole library's there. So if I lose it, I can just go back and download it again.
well, I don't know if Chubby's still here, but he's a pretty damn good example of putting all your stuff in one place. And there's lots of other creators too that do that, and you can just go surf everything they have right there.
St. Cuthbert. What do we got before there?
St. Cuthbert.
Oh, there's Ken. Hey, Ken, join in if you want. You got the link, bud.
Oh yeah. Hey, Ken.
They could have a columbarium filled with funeral, as a counterpoint to the charnel. Oh, interesting. Yeah. So more of an honorarium kind of place of dead than these skulls are really cool. Let's make a pile.
Yeah. Metal, dude.
They're pretty much, dude.
So the Merkborgers are on one side of the river.
Right, pretty much, yeah.
And the paladins and clerics from one ear on the other side of the river.
Exactly.
I remember
They're just shooting like, angry glances at each other across the river.
I can still, but I still, even though they're opposite, like we got the dark ones and we got the good ones. I mean, I still imagine like the people in Havenford, they're still kind of brutal. they kind of have a righteous indignation about them.
Well, it wouldn't be the first time in history, and I know that's not, we're totally doing a historical thing, but it wouldn't be the first time that a lot of self-righteous people are actually a bunch of scumbags.
Right, exactly.
That's happened.
Never happened. Never happened.
Some may polish up better, but
That's right.
They're still handing out Kool-Aid.
Yeah. And there's still interdependence between the two halves because they are still small community in a, points of light type of campaign and stuff. So there's still interaction between the two sides, even if it's grudging in some ways.
Well, that idea earlier with the mangonel, I was kind of kidding, but if you could have the lawful types on that side of the river, but when they do capture a gnoll, he's executed and the head is put in the mangonel and fired across the river in a ceremonious thing. Maybe that wasn't a bad idea. I was just kidding.
Just fuck you to the other side.
Now it's starting to make sense. I mean, that was done in several of the Crusader battles, at least in Antioch and others in the First Crusade.
Yeah.
So when do they do that then? When they capture
Yeah, maybe when they capture one of the gnolls specifically, maybe not a human, maybe not an elf or some other humanoid, but those gnolls as punishment for them supporting the baddies on the other side of the river on the I guess Austinburg. Austinburg has to be the bad place because it has Austin in the name. I'm here in Texas. So anything in Austin,
it does kind of fit. You got Austin and Berg, and then you got Haven, and then, so if gnolls are caught.
Yeah, it's a death sentence for them. They're executed and then ceremoniously have their heads flung across the river.
Flung across the river.
Maybe on fire.
All right, we'll put. Why not? Let's turn it up to 11.
I've been reading too much Crusade stuff lately. There's lots. It's worse than anything we do in role play.
Oh, exactly. That's what I was going to say. Yeah, there's. I think we're good either way. So fire heads.
But the Fourth Crusade was basically just a big side campaign.
Yeah, you don't make it all the way, so let's just loot some other Christians in Constantinople.
Yeah, right. We're not really picky as long as my pockets are full.
I want a piece of those guys for years.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oops, I spelled fire here. Not that it matters. All right. Back into. I kind of like the idea of only the good side doing that.
Well, yeah, because then, hey, they have their gods, but they're both capable of atrocities and acting like humans and doing terrible things, even though they're
right. Because I feel Austinburg doesn't want to waste a good skull. I'm not. No, we just earned this skull. We're not going to get rid of this. I got to make my pile bigger.
Yeah. Well, then they send it over to the charnel house and make soup. It's on the menu. something.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the soup kitchen next to the charnel house. That's right.
That's what the poor. That's what the
Don't-
poor and the beggars eat.
Yeah, don't ask too
Gnoll's
many
head soup.
questions. Let's see.
Gnoll's
That's
head pottage.
right. I think I spelled that right.
Michael, that word columbarium is, I assume that's a derivative of St. Columba, the one who was on Iona, the isle, went to the island by himself, and a small group of men and women weren't allowed. It's a real saint in Scotland, I believe. It's like a counterpart of St. Patrick in Ireland.
Well, I actually think it's a. I mean,
Columbarium.
I'm actually looking it up to make sure it's what I think it is. Columbarium is an ancient Roman example, rich of frescoes, decorations, precious mosaics. Okay, yeah. So basically, it's just a fancy building where they kind of put intern people there. So it's like So it's a freestanding, basically mausoleum.
Yeah, mausoleum is what it sounds like with all the
Yeah.
cremated remains, as opposed
Yeah.
to the charnel house, which is nastier on the other side of the river.
Right. We put our leg bones in this room, and when the interns come in, it's like, okay, leg bones go in this room, guys. Over here's our.
And you have monastic scribes serving as accountants, keeping spreadsheets of all the different parts and where they're buried, and
Right.
dog tags.
Chained to their desks. All right. They put. And then let's come up with a couple maybe cool stores that are over there. What would be like a cool shop or tavern or something that might be on the east side? Oh, look at
Well,
the
you're going to have
smoke.
dwarves visiting, so there's going to be an ale house of some sort.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe a place called Stumpy's or something derogatory, but in a nice way.
Yeah, Lefty.
dwarves.
Yeah, Stumpy and Lefty.
Stumpy.
They're two amputee dwarves run it.
The Stumpy Trapper.
Stumpy. I'm going to put that in there. And Lefty's. Lefty's Ale House.
Stumpy and Lefties.
Yeah. House. Two amputee
It's
dwarves.
taking a very Texas turn. It sounds like Poncho.
And there's billboards along the river for miles and miles. It's keep counting it down. You're 250 miles from
no
Stumpy and
Buckies,
Lefty.
but we
You're
got Stumpy and
150
Lefties.
Yeah, that's
Opting
right.
for beef jerky and beaver nuggets, dwarf nuggets.
I know.
Hey, here's an interesting thing on the columbarium.
Did you just say beaver nuggets?
Yeah,
They are famous for their fried beaver nuggets.
If you've never been to, you may not even know what this is up in the north.
I don't know what beaver nuggets are. That's why.
Well,
I'm
there's a place
fascinated
called
by the term.
Bucky's that was started down here in Texas with one
Right.
location. They're known for, it's like a big truck stop, but now
Okay.
they're all over the place. They're expanding to other states, but they're known for having like casino-sized clean bathrooms.
Right.
So people,
Okay.
I mean, there's rows and rows. There's a section for trucks and there's a section for, car travelers and so forth. But people just stop there for the snacks and for the fresh sandwiches. They have barbecue. It's a chain that's rapidly growing. Bucky's
Wow.
with EE at the end, EES. Yeah. So it's kind of a joke on Bucky's, I guess.
Yeah.
I think Vance knew what that was. Here's an interesting thing on the columbarium also is it says something about compartmentalized housings for doves and pigeons, also called the dovecote. So if you have the buzzards and the other carrion crow and things on the other side of the river, maybe here they use doves and pigeons in their heraldry or in their symbolism and so forth.
Right.
Okay.
Doves sounds nicer than pigeons. Those are just, rats with wings.
Codes, you know what? I'm going to put that under Saint. I can't think of Tariginus or whatever I can't say the name. I have to.
St. Taragnus.
Yeah, Taragnus. There you go.
Yeah, it'd be funny if on the lawful side of the river, their motto is something about peace. death for peace or something like that. So they're willing, in the name of peace, they're willing to commit all these atrocities and fling
fight
heads.
for peace, war forever.
On their shields, they have a peaceful little dove, or that kind of thing.
And happy smiling face.
And they're anything but peaceful.
Right. Yeah. All right. So we got something. Do we got it? Let's do just like maybe one interesting store over there. Then what would be a good?
You got like Fibbert's novelties or something like that. He's a tinker, probably like a halfling or a goblin that runs it. That always and I've done that. Maybe you've done that. Like similar, like in Hound's Head and stuff. Of like, there's like they're always. Anytime they come in, you do a random roll or something like that for some sort of oddball item that he just happened to give him that week. Like giant fishing hooks or his and hers cestus kit. Set.
One of my things I do with my goblins in my campaign, I can't remember if I went over this with you, but they're excellent scroungers. Like they can find stuff.
Right. Yeah. That's how I got that magic hook, was from that one scrounging goblin.
Right. Oh, that's right. Yeah. So what I always say about goblins, they always seem to have the right item for that someone will need, even if they don't know it yet.
That's funny, Michael. He says up on the Jersey Turnpike, there's a billboard, I think, for Buc-ee's. Something like 700 miles to go or something. They do that all over Texas. They'll have, 50 more miles, and they'll have a funny saying on the billboard. They spend a lot of money on advertising.
Oh,
What if it was a monetary difference, Tim? Like on one side of the river, they're gold standard, the lawful side, and the chaos side is crypto.
Well, I was going to even say not too much, because gold in my campaign is very. That's
your silver. Yeah, you explained that to me one time.
But we would have definitely like different minted coins of some sort, know. So what kind of coinage would Austinburg have? Well, let's see. What's the shape of the coinage?
One's going to be kind of oblong. One's going to be octagonal.
Oblong silver pieces. What's the emblem on the silver piece? Or a
cannabis leaf. It's
Austin. And one side's got one of them has to have like an eye on it, at least on one side or something like that.
Okay, I was thinking for Austinburg too that they might, because they're into skulls, so put a skull on one side, and then how about put it and a vulture, or one of their birds of thing on a vulture on the other.
That's good.
Instead of the Canadian loon, we got the Austinburg vulture.
The crony.
That's great. I love that. Crony. Yes. That's great.
The loony and the
And then for this one, you said an eye coinage. Eye on one side. And then a dove on the other, then?
Dove on the other, maybe. Yeah.
Dove on the...
A dove holding a sword.
Or a mangonel.
Right, yeah.
They're proud of their siege weaponry or their
artillery. They like their little siege weapons. There we go. Okay, cool. I think that's pretty good for that one. The only thing now what I would add here is... Let's make up some a few interesting NPCs from each side.
Okay.
That we could run into. So we have Austinburg. So let's do Austinburg first. So we're going evil side. So who is going to be the leader of Austinburg?
Pulling up fantasy name generator for some good Eastern European names.
Get some Serbia names or something.
Yeah, like that. It's something that we can still pronounce.
Can still pronounce, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I roll these up with like no vowels in them, and it's kind of.
I know. I'll get in because I'll use different nationalities. Like Serbia is one of the ones I like to use. Hungarian's like near impossible to pronounce, but I can Anglo-Saxonize it.
Yeah,
and it's probably Iceland sometimes, man.
Oh gosh, Iceland! I don't even have a chance.
Iceland, you're like, holy crap!
Right? It's like, no, you made that up.
So the
Let's see,
first
it's
name
Austin.
came up on the
Mito?
Serbian is Igor Ristic. That's a pretty not too hard to pronounce. And
What's the name?
Igor Ristic,
Igor?
Ristic. Yeah.
That's TIC Ristic. Oh, I do like that name.
That's
So he's going to be the leader?
Yeah, he's going to be the current mayor of
current mayor
of Havenford. And it's, it's basically, you basically get elected by bribes.
Okay.
We could just say mayor, unless you want to get into election cycles out of Rob's book. That
Right.
might be included in
Man,
there.
another shot at Rob. I like it, Mike.
It's every 4 years, except for alternating leap years, in which case there's 2 that year.
Oh, that's so
I feel like
funny.
if it's in Austin, it should be Beto, somebody.
Yeah, exactly.
Pick up a last name other than O'Rourke. Beto.
Yeah. They could do like
Beto.
What do they call it? I can't think of the name of it other than like how you rule the Austinburg side, kind of like a trial by battle in like a certain area, maybe like the charnel house. Maybe there is an arena, or maybe down in the catacombs, or but there's no rules. So do they cheat? They cheat like hell all the time.
Right.
So, it's just 2-man enter, 1-man leave, unless you had 6 buddies already camped out there the night before that were waiting down there, kind of thing. Okay.
High German names. It's just first names.
We need some kind of magic or clerical high figure.
Yeah.
The baddies also like a dark priest or a shaman or something.
Yeah. Who do we got for? I'm gonna pull out a name of the rose name that I always liked. Brother Eldelmo.
Okay.
I don't know why. I just remember that name. I always remembered Brother Eldelmo.
I use a lot of Italian names and sometimes Spanish too in mine.
Well, he was.
Yeah.
I had one of my 5e players go, "Do you know any names that don't end in a vowel?"
Oh. All right. Yeah.
Is the current
Let's go female name.
high priest, or whatever title we're going to do for what were we saying there?
Worship shrine or whatever you called it. I forgot.
I don't know if did we do any names for that one?
No, I don't think so. I see it mentioned.
No, I didn't. We didn't do anything for that one. I tell you what, I'll do it with, because I have this. I have a death goddess in my campaign.
Perfect.
Called Dedragoria. She's do you guys know who Kali is in the Hindu mythology? That's basically, she's the divine mother and destroyer.
Sounds like a nice girl.
Yeah,
I can fix her.
But she's a hell of a cook.
Yeah. Exactly.
She's got lots of arms or something like that.
She can take a gnoll skull and do things that will just blow your mind.
Oh, you never thought were possible.
Gnoll head cheese soup. Yeah.
All right. All right. So let's get what is. I just have a feeling we have to get a picture of a Brother Demo. What does Brother Demo kind of look like?
That's for the
baddies.
For the baddies.
Yeah.
For the baddies. Yep.
Oh, so he's got to be kind of almost like cadaver.
Okay.
Dark cowled figure.
Yeah. Yeah. He definitely spends too much time in the basement. Kind of. He probably should have more vegetables in his diet.
Thin drawn, bony features.
Yeah. Smells of rot.
Yeah.
What's a rumor that surrounds Brother Adelmo?
That he's not really Brother Adelmo, but another priest by the same name. No.
I like that though.
Yeah, he's actually not Brother Adelmo. He's actually just somebody who has assumed that, identity.
Okay,
His true identity is not really known.
I like that. All right. Oops. All right. Then why don't we then?
Probably need a leader of the gnolls too, some NPC figure who's the.
Well, what we'll do, because that'll be over in the we have a thing for gnoll slavers on another hex, so we'll do the gnolls in that other.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, you're gonna have to develop all that there, and they'll just visit.
Right. Exactly. So but we'll definitely want to give them some details and everything. All right. So who else would we'll come up with a couple more good NPCs that would be sort of significant. They don't all have to be leaders. Maybe they're shop owners. Maybe they're just weird little dudes. Yeah.
What about a merchant that or a captain of one of these flatboats that trades up and down the river, and maybe he plays both sides for the highest buck, kind of thing.
All right. What's this guy's name?
Bucky McBuxterson.
So there's
Captain Skid.
Sigaric.
Instead of Captain Kidd, Captain Skid.
Yeah.
Captain Skid.
With 2 D's.
We'll go with Captain Skid.
SKIDD, yeah.
Captain Skid. All right. And he's a flatboat merchant, you said?
Yeah, flatboat. Yeah, they run they haul the skins and then bring up goods and haul haul stuff for a fee.
Could carry slaves for one side, and on the next trip be bringing furs from the dwarves or something, and on the other side.
Yeah, he's not. He's a well-known trader of manacles. In any kind of
well, then this must be Greg's character.
Yeah, Greggy McGregorson.
So what I kind of just wrote down, he plays both sides. He doesn't give a shit about their conflict.
Yeah, coin's all the same to this
man. I bet he's still not here in the comments. We should make a character called Dubby Hunster.
Dubby Hunster,
and Dubby Hunster can be a traveling jongleur who acts like an idiot and entertains, but he's actually a spy for the other side, or maybe he's a spy for both sides or the highest buck also, and can be paid off to trade in information. That'd be a good way to get rumors passed around.
Well, what I got it. We'll call it the Gregster.
Fubby Chunster, I think is his name. Yeah.
What's his name?
Fubby Chunster.
Okay, Fubby Chunster.
Yeah, it's a halfling. Yeah.
Yeah, Fubby Chunster. That's a good one.
Halfling. Plays a fool. But is really a spy. Spy for. Then we'll have to think of someone for the other side that he's a spy for.
Yeah.
We'll fill that one in.
Sure. To be determined.
To be determined, exactly. Yeah.
Hey, Max.
And I usually put triple X in a place so I can find it easier.
Yeah, that's what I do too.
All right, let's head over to Havenford.
Okay.
Havenford. Oops. All right, so who is going to be the leader of Havenford?
Let me get. It's slipped to the mail size. I don't know. These all suck.
Jameis Winston.
There you go.
Jameis Winston? That is. You pulling out some football on me there, Mike?
Yeah, I was going to say, let's see if I get away with this one.
Well, you know, it's funny when I do my names a lot of times, especially my NPCs, I think of NFL players and use their last names.
Yeah.
I might have, that's one of my big resources for names.
Well, you have a half a name there.
Go with you. Well, yeah, use what you know, I guess. You know.
Winston
Yeah.
somebody then.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's give him a title. Should he be a lord or a sir or?
Oh, he's got to have a 2 behind his name with a name like that.
Yeah, he's on the lawful side. He should sound like
Yeah, he might be a little highly of himself, and he might and slightly disdainful because he'd really like to have a better post, kind of thing.
So like Lord Winston the Third.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, wasn't that like what was the guy from Gilligan's Island? Thurston Howell the Third or the Fifth or something like that?
Yeah.
And then there was Charles Winchester and the Smith Mash. Yeah, you got.
Well, there you go, Lord Winston Howell the Third. Kind of funny.
We'll channel our 70s themes through this the whole thing. Yeah. So what is Lord Winston? So he's the leader of
Made for you and me. Yeah, I see.
And then we'll say I'd say we tie him in with the what is it? The Knights of Idris.
Steward, Chancellor,
Steward.
Nothing is
Steward?
great. So yeah, Steward maybe. So he's holding the spot with the pretense of royalty, but he's not really all that blue.
Gotcha. So then would he
faking it till he makes it?
Right.
Faking it till he's making it. The rightful heir. Nobody's stepping up to take that job.
No.
No, it has stepped up and taken that job for like 3 generations.
Right. Three generations, yeah. All right, I like it. All right.
Don't forget his surname, Tim. He should Lord Winston Howell the Third.
Oh, Howell.
Yeah. He'll get pissed.
There we go. Lord Winston Howell the Third. All right. Who else do we have? Let's, I guess, get a leader for.
We're awful male here, and I like to mix it up.
I was just going to say we gotta add some femailage in here.
Yeah. How about the girl who sells the cockle shells? Like what's her name, Molly Malone, there in Dublin, and she is rumored to be a harlot, but maybe isn't. Maybe she just sells, the shellfish from her thing to the people down on the docks. But she's also somebody who knows what's happening and can give you information and sells rumors and so forth about what's what down the docks. And
she's kind of the like the local crayfish provider.
Okay.
Does a really good crayfish boil, but also kind of always keeps a weather eye on the river.
You're going to have to spell that crawfish. I'm sorry, or I'm just not going to play this game.
That's fine.
Crawfish is
Raw.
Crayfish and crawfish.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
My mother's last name
when we were on our
Trove.
trip, we stumbled into one of the local bars, and they were having their crawfish boil fundraiser.
That's right.
So yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh, this was a real thing along the.
Yeah. It's for like the local football team or something.
Yeah, it was
Oh, that's funny.
River oysters.
All right, so it's crawfish. And what I'm sorry, guys, there was a lot. What did she do besides that? She was.
She knows all the rumors and information around the docks area and the river area on the other side. So maybe she's the counterpart to what Fubby Chunster is, and can serve as a spy. She could maybe cross the river to sell stuff or pick up shellfish and bring back information, or secure passage across the river, or know somebody who can help out with that, or boil some blue crabs.
Those things. All right. Who else besides Molly then?
Got the head of the Beheens.
Yeah, who's the head of the beans?
Sylvia Asensio.
That sounds like a
That's it.
authoritarian name.
Yeah, there you go.
It sounds like what?
That's an authoritarian name.
Shayna thinks it's authoritarian. Yeah, I think she might have like kind of the high starch collar bit about her.
I don't know. I hear Sylvia Asensio, and I'm thinking there's going to be a crystal ball in front of her and some cards. I don't know.
Yeah,
I
well, she's
feel
a
you.
bit, yeah, she's got the kind of the mystic thing going about her. Every once in a
Okay.
while, she might speak in tongues.
Ooh.
Maybe some
She's like
seer
the third
skills.
daughter of some family, so she had no inheritance. So this is kind of her,
She doesn't have a family, you said, or
kind of her option.
okay.
Inheritance, so she went
I
into the
gotcha.
cloth, that sort
The
of thing.
third daughter of the third daughter. We're skipping the
Yeah,
seventh son of the
exactly.
seventh
It's
son.
like, yeah, your inheritance is a cast iron pan. That's about it.
You get the third cast iron pan on the wall.
I know, and it's not even the big one.
Yeah, it's all rusted. And it's the one the cow stepped on and bent the side.
I know, it's got a broken handle or something.
So what's her shtick then? So she's a mystic, speaks in tongues.
Right. So she's kind of that's leader of this.
She's the leader of them. Okay.
Right.
She could also be a seer and give her some of the spell casting from that class.
Right. Yeah. Maybe give her like a kind of like a half level seer kind of thing, or just make her a seer if she's
The one thing about the seer class in this one, it's not. I would almost consider it a passive class. It's not an adventuring class.
Yeah.
When you look at the spells and everything, it's cool. I like it, but it's more of an NPC class than really an adventuring class.
Are you saying you wouldn't take an NPC class as a character or a support character on an adventure?
You can play the beer swigging class, and I'll let it run through the adventure. If you want to be the well, I mean, Joe for the longest time, his basically class was Tinker.
Yeah, because that's why I was asking, because I think I've been working on some other classes, and they're not frontline fighters, and they're not frontline spellcasters, but they have other skills. I like the idea of not having a whole party of that, but there's an odd character that doesn't run to the front of the battle, but can do other things.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Let's come up. I think, let me see. What do we need here? We got to go back up here and see.
She could be the head of the legislative group on the baddie side, which is maybe the Chamber of Peers, and she's
who are you talking about now?
Silva. She could be seer to the peers.
Seers to the what? The peers?
Seers to the the Council of Peers. That's the governing body, and she's the head of that governing body. The Chamber of Peers, and the commoners joke about her behind her back and call her seer to the peers.
Yeah, I thought you were saying like
going out for beer.
Like peers. That's what I thought you were saying. Like a bunch of people.
Yeah, there you go. PEERS.
Seer of peers. All right.
Tears of peers. Like Tears for Fears.
I was going to say, and everybody wants to rule the world. Yeah.
Oh, God. Friday night.
Friday night videos. Yeah.
I haven't even broken into this yet. There's a little bit left. I guess I could.
Yeah, I just had Shayna go get me some inspiration. So things are gonna get wild.
Shayna to the rescue.
Speaking of excellent NPC support characters.
Yeah, exactly.
There's your random party generator right there.
Yeah.
Add a few of that. Well, Shayna, what's going to be our next NPC character going to be?
Oh, she just got back. We need a name.
Yeah, we need a name, Shayna.
For what?
Give us names.
Any
character, some
NPC
House Subcommittee on Un-American Activities. Give us a name.
Now she's fried. Now you froze.
I forgot. I was going to say, did I freeze her brain?
How about Dalton
okay.
Trumbo?
So she is in charge of the florist.
The florist.
All right. Who? What's the name again?
Let's see. I'll come up with I've got a decent Norwegian name here. Which one do you like?
Borsky, borsky, dorsky, do.
Evie Silt.
Evie Silta.
Okay, EVYSYLTE.
Okay, EVY. I got that, and then my brain shut down.
EVY is her first name, and they're SLYSYLTE is her last name.
SYLTE.
And she brought me a non-alcoholic beer. That's
she brought you.
So thanks.
Go give me a leaded. You can have that one. Go give me a leaded one.
The disappointment in your voice is like, oh.
Yeah, thanks, Don, I guess.
That's what I typically drink when I'm on, but it's Friday, so I'm gonna.
I was gonna say it's Friday.
I gotta have a leaded one.
You got to go down to the garage, refrigerator.
Yeah, get the garage beers.
Yeah,
does that say she's a florist?
Yeah, we're gonna probably go and hit the.
Yeah, she's in charge of the florist. Yes.
Okay, I got a zip line now.
She delivers bouquets all around town.
In my campaign, I mean, you could pick.
Hey, you got what was it? The Tulip Wars they fought in Flanders and
right,
yeah.
When they were worth $1 billion each, until they all decided at once to go, you know what? These are just fucking flowers, and then they
exactly they bankrupted the entire nation.
They were kind of the Beanie Babies of their era.
Exactly.
Everybody was trying to corner the market on it. Yeah, that was a. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
we're all happy now.
Yep, we're all happy now. We have our drink.
Yeah, he does look happier now, Shanna. He does.
Maybe she has some allies though from the forest outside of town that she could call upon to help or hinder.
It's kind of like the flower mafia is what we've got going on here. It's like
I wrote down like one of her skills is she has a knack for raising sentient plants.
There we go.
Yes.
There we go.
Just like when
Little Shop of Horrors.
Shop of Horrors,
Yeah,
exactly.
Or maybe a lot of Shop of Horrors.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of Groots dancing to Mr. Blue.
Yeah.
Maybe she's got a hidden field.
Groot, Audrey's, all
there.
sorts of, Triffids, whatever we got.
Right. Oh, I think that's a good start
Yeah.
to that one, guys. That's pretty good.
Eventually, one of the adventures is something getting way out of hand. Yeah.
Right. It's probably can weaponize her plants. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Can do something to them. All right. I think that's pretty. Is there anything you guys can think of that we would else want to add to that, or do you think we got a good general feel
I think
for
we've
it?
got good. We got leaders, a couple, both, kind of the political and religious leaders. We've got.
I think the only thing we need to add is I think we need to come up with a festival for each side.
Oh God!
Something that some sort of celebration.
Holiday names. Here we go.
Holiday names.
Dragon Festival.
We got
Respect Festival.
Oh God, that's stupid. Here's the Festival of Blood. Festival of Danger.
Yeah, maybe they do in Austinburg. They do a midnight procession dedicated to skulls and the dead.
Yeah, and everybody's got like their skull on a stick kind of thing.
So kind of like a parade of the dead.
Oh, what is it? The
Very
thing,
morbid.
the Mary Wide. I think it's what is that how it's pronounced? It's Irish or Scottish. It's like the horse skull kind of ghost thing, and they go and knock on the door, and it's basically like then they get into like a rap battle kind of thing.
I have to look that one up. It's called the
Sounds
Mary
Swedish.
Wine? Yeah. I don't know. If it's Irish, we're not going to be able to pronounce it anyways. Because
I forget what it's called, but yeah, it's essentially it's a winter holiday thing or a Christmas type thing. It's probably been pagan thing that's been co-opted by Christmas. That they go around. It's essentially kind of like a caroling type thing. But yeah, the leader of these little groups is always in this ghost horse kind of outfit. Yeah.
They're not Samhain or Shamain, right? SAMHIIN.
No. No, it's not salmon. Yeah.
Oh, I kind of just a Parade of the Dead. I was going to say people are visited by children wearing horrific costumes. They're given gifts to go away.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah, it's Welsh, so yeah, no, there's no way we're going to pronounce it.
No, yeah.
It's Marilwyd, which is pronounced probably like George.
Right.
That sounds Welsh.
You know,
Welsh
that's
or
the
Gaelic.
weird. I always found
it's Welsh. Yeah.
The weirdest thing about the Irish language is the only thing you can pronounce in Gaelic or Welsh is Gaelic and Welsh. You just can pronounce what they are. That's it. You can't pronounce anything else in there.
All you need to know is Guinness.
Yeah.
There you go. And you got to know how to
say
pour
that,
it.
you're fine.
And don't ask for a cold Guinness or you might get punched.
Yeah.
Why would you want a cold Guinness? Come on.
Yeah, Fairy Luid is how I think it's pronounced, basically.
Come
Fairy
on.
Luid. And
so they're giving gifts to go away or have something set on fire.
right. It's trick or treat,
Yeah, it's like the pyromaniac version of trick or treat. If you don't give me some candy, I'm not throwing eggs. I'm not throwing toilet paper. I'm gonna set your freaking dog on fire.
Right.
Yeah.
Although it was canceled for a couple of years when a third of the town burned down.
Yeah.
When one of the dogs they set on fire ran through town and caught half of it on fire.
Yeah, they ran into the bar and caught all the straw on fire, and then the resulting conflagration. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. What do we want to do for Havenford? What kind of festival will the?
Probably an annual turkey shoot at the KC Hall, something like that.
Probably something like that.
Prisoner rodeo.
Prisoner rodeo. You know what? You say that, Mike, and that just reminds me of one of those memes. Tell me you're from Texas without saying you're from Texas.
Prison rodeo.
Prison rodeo. Right there it is.
Capital punishment.
Oh, that's a great one.
Open carry.
Right.
Let's see. Planting celebration.
Well, it doesn't have to be a complete wussy thing.
Feast of
complete wussy
complete wussy thing.
What about
a complete wussy thing?
Okay.
What about the Doobie
Diversity
Brothers last
Day,
reunion tour?
No.
A crawdad eating contest there.
There we go.
There are those.
Yeah, there we go. And it's the it's kind of the spring floods, breaking of the ice kind of type of thing. Yeah.
I like that.
Breaking of the ice to celebrate spring. What's it called though? Give me a name.
Oh God.
And don't say Festivus.
Yeah, I know. I got on my randos here. I got Fest of the New Rain, so we could do something like that.
Of the New Rain.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that.
There we go.
Fest of the New Rain.
And it's when this everybody's mucking around in the streets in mud and they and it depends on when the fest actually occurs when the river the ice breaks on the river, so it varies a little bit each year, and there's probably quite a bit of betting involved on when the ice is going to break, and somebody wins the pool each year, that sort of thing.
Yeah, as a sign of good faith to their patron, they released one of the prisoners and let them drift out in the middle of the river on the ice.
Yeah, or cross the river and hope it doesn't.
They're free to go to the other side if they can go across on the fractured ice.
They give them that chance of hope there.
Because
maybe that's how they crack the ice.
Yeah, nothing more kind is a bunch of fundamentalists.
Cross. Lots of bedding there. Yeah. All right. Cool. All right. We're good there. That's funny. I like that one though. That's pretty. That's a good one. Got it. It's got a little bit of a nature thing to it, but also kind of a sadistic son of a bitch thing to it too.
Yes,
I like that.
You can see Crusaders doing it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's not that hard a stretch.
Yeah.
So, which group do you guys want to work on next? We got the Gnoll Camp. We got the Overwatch. We've got the Feral Elf Cave. Feral Elf Cave might take a little bit because that one probably
I think that
Fur
one needs
Traders.
it's kind of its own thing. I mean, the gnolls are probably pretty simple. You just need a number and like a grog snaggletooth or whatever the name of the lead gnoll is. And,
what's his name?
Grog Snaggletooth.
Grog Snaggletooth.
It's going to sound like a dog somehow, aren't they? Those are kind of dog or hyena face.
I put them as hyenas. If they're
hyenas.
Yeah, sentient hyenas. Yeah.
Hyenas. That sounds like an anatomical feature.
Yeah, I had to have that looked at. If you're a man over 50, you make sure you have your hyena get checked
out. Make sure you get your annual hyenas checked out by the doctors. Yeah. Are you? Let's see. Get rid of that. I just decided to make them gigantic. So Grog Snaggletooth is a gigantic gnoll who wields a giant leg bone wrapped in iron as a weapon.
Harry sounds great.
Love it.
Yeah, that's a
burly.
Yeah.
That's a burly.
Secretly a mama's boy.
Hey, Vance, that beer sounds
good. I was going to say that
your microphone is very effective. It picks up everything.
Yeah, I know that. Joe, not Joe, but Paul was wondering about his microphone levels. I think mine are perfectly fine. Yeah,
pick up everything.
Yeah. Either that, or I'd have a giant monitor lizard in my room.
I need another gnoll name real quick.
Voth Gold Eyes.
Voth. Wow.
VOTH.
Wait, how are you saying it?
VOTH. Voth.
VOTH. Oh, okay. Voth. Okay.
Yeah, female gnoll. So it could either be his mate or.
I'm actually making her his rival. She's leaving.
I was going to say either mate or the one that's kind of vying for the leadership of the clan.
Yeah.
And she's probably a little bit, more strategic.
Right. Yeah, because I'm saying that good old Snaggletooth, he's starting to show his age and slowing down, and a faction led by Voss Golden Eyes is vying to become the next leader.
Right.
All right. Cool. How many gnolls are in the camp?
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think?
52.
52. I like that number. All right. Are they going to have any other maybe like classed possible NPCs in there, or are we just going to run with like a small horde of gnolls?
No, I mean they probably have like a shaman or something like that
Okay.
that might be using like either like pre-spells or like some sort of combination spells.
Yeah, I think somebody did come up with a shaman class and spells. I can't remember if it was. I don't remember who did that now. There's so many
Yeah.
freaking classes now.
Yeah, I mean,
For it's hard.
I'm sure there's a shaman. Yeah.
I wonder if that was Greg.
I think it's in one of either his player's companion or GM companion, one or the other.
Yeah, because he's got a shit ton of classes in here. Let's
Greg
see.
is full of class.
There it is. Yep, he came up with the shaman. He just gave him pre-spells, so we didn't. And then he's got spirit walk, and then turn undead for it. And then I do think there was somebody there that came up with actually shaman spells also, though, too, like a whole set of those. Let me check unnatural selection because I can't. I don't think they did. Now that I.
And instead of like a turn, they would probably use control.
I'm sorry, what was that, Vance?
Oh, if they've got like a turn undead, they would probably use a control. Swap that to a control undead.
Yeah, actually, what do you call it? Unnatural selection actually has a shaman class, and their spells are called chants instead of spells.
Right.
And these guys are more good though. The way they have a healing circle, so I'm not thinking this would be appropriate for a gnoll shaman kind of thing, because these are the spells that they have in here. The classes they have are their nature versions of it, where I think gnolls would be more blood ritual kind of ritual shaman. Yeah. And then what's his name then?
Oh gosh.
Let
me see. I've got a name here.
Got a name?
Just have a name? Just a little bit ago?
Just his only name is Rotclaw.
Rotclaw?
Yeah.
All right. That's all we need is a Rotclaw. Yeah. Rotclaw is his name. Oh, okay. All right. And what like in the encampment, is there anything going on there? Do they do anything? Do they have anything there that would be interesting?
Macrame.
The first thing that comes
What
I was thinking about for these guys is they're encamped around these old ruins, but there's only rocks. There's no rooms. It's just this old array of stones and rocks that are around there, and there's actually something substantial beneath it, but they've never discovered it. They live around a series of ruins.
That's cold.
East.
Bump the units on.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that was their ancestral land, and they're trying to claim that. These last 52 have come back to try to reclaim that area west of the town, and they do it by peeing on all the bushes and sniffing each other's butts because they're dog people.
That's right.
Yeah.
They chase squirrels.
Yeah, that's the only thing that's been keeping them from overrunning the entire area.
Yeah, they don't have the discipline because every time a squirrel runs out of a tree, they all go bananas.
Yeah.
Right.
No, it works with our greyhounds, so yeah.
Then why don't we just do one more for tonight, guys? Why don't we do the fur traders? The dwarven fur traders.
Okay, French dwarves, huh?
Yeah, I don't know where somebody got
Fergus the Foo-Foo.
Let's see here. We'll do this one.
Frankish names. Where are they, Franks?
Gotta head out. Thanks and have a good night. Thank you, Michael. You too. Thanks for joining us for a bit.
Yeah, thanks for enjoying.
Yeah, for my pitch for tonight, when I was going to put it on. I didn't end up putting it on there because actually I forgot it, but I was going to do it. So tired of people bitching about Wizards of the Coast? Join us. Where the only thing to bitch about is Rob.
I got to tell you that I watch a ton of videos like y'all do too, and I'm just so tired of looking at different systems and comparing that. It's like, I just want to play something.
Right. I mean, I don't mind like a comparison thing, but a lot of times what I don't like what they do is people compare systems and they may not have even played them yet. They're just
yeah.
And it's like
doing blanket
what are
reviews.
You doing?
Yeah.
Michael
imagines the French dwarves having severe Van Dykes. That's hilarious. Wouldn't they be Dutch dwarves then if they had Van Dykes?
I was going to say that would be Dutch dwarves then, wouldn't it? Yeah.
So the leader would be Vinnie van Gogh.
Yeah.
All right. How many dwarven fur traders are they going to be?
48.
Yeah.
48.
So it's somewhere roughly matched with the gnolls in case. I mean, that way both sides are enough of a resource or a military benefit to the either Austinburg or Havenford, whichever side they support.
I would say while they are called dwarven fur traders, there is a mix of humans and halflings within.
Right.
And what kind of animals or monsters or things do they get furs from? Are we going for anything out of the ordinary? Or we're just going to keep it
badgers, giant beavers.
Yeah, they're opportunists.
So they specialize.
You could have something dangerous up there, like a dire pick your mammal.
Yeah,
dire insert mammal here.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, the cool thing, because what you notice right above them, we have a cave that we haven't. Maybe there's an animal that kind of lives in that cave that's their Moby Dick.
Right. Whales don't live in caves, Tim.
Yeah, I know.
Well, I guess
don't they?
Under the water, they do now. These whales have arms and they scoot around.
The great white weasel. Yeah.
Lovecraftian cave whales.
That's right. Yeah, there you go.
Throw in a tentacle and you're good. Yeah.
Instead of the old ones, it's the old fat ones. Yeah. It just dropped that moniker. It wasn't as threatening. Yeah.
Well, if you got caves, you could have trolls or ogres or, like you say, some sort of giant.
Trapping giants.
Oh, that they're trapping? Yeah. I don't know what.
Yeah, these are trapples, yeah. Yeah. So you said they specialize in trapping giant species of animals.
What are you going to trap though on a giant species? I thought you meant a giant.
Yeah, no, just like
they're going to scalp him or get his chest hair or something.
Yeah, owlbear,
shave his back,
shave his back, and make sweaters.
And whales, yeah.
Shit, they trap whales.
Yes.
Yeah. And crawdads.
Mark, you need to turn around and walk out.
Yeah, the furry mountain crawdad is a
dire crustacean.
A dire crustacean.
Dire crawfish. There's a new one.
So I made the Hendred Ode Hill. Will be our.
I mean, watch the Revenant again, and grizzlies can be pretty scary just without any magical, D&D hoodoo. A damn grizzly can be pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's the everything's a bear rule. Yeah.
Everything's a bear.
Yep.
No, they're French. Dwarves, right? So it should be Pierre Odehill or.
Yeah. Okay. All right, we'll go with Pierre. There we go.
Or Jean-Claude Odehill.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I was in Montana way back in the day, and if you guys have ever been to Montana, you know that there's like
Never
what
want to go.
there's 2 towns in the entire state, and the rest of it's just bear territory and deer territory. And I was just outside. I was Bozeman, and I wasn't paying attention. I was eating my lunch, and a freaking grizzly bear came up and hit my picnic table. I'm looking out this way. He comes out this way. Didn't see him, didn't hear, he didn't make any noise, and I'm just like eating a ham sandwich or something like that. And all of a sudden, my entire picnic table just moves, just like he was moving past me. He just bumped it, but I mean, and in this picnic table was made of like it was like a 15, well, maybe not 15, 10-foot hard wood. You know, it probably weighed 300, 400 pounds or something like that. He moved it like it wasn't there, and then he kind of was snorting in the air, and I'm just then of course I got real. I'm like, whoop, whoop. Okay, I'm going through my head all of a sudden every geographical or everything I've ever heard about grizzly bears, trying to remember anything. I couldn't remember anything.
Ham sandwich.
Yeah, so basically I threw the ham sandwich and ran to my car. So that was my plan. Yeah.
I hope you kept the Funyuns, though. I'll be damned if any bear would take my Funyuns.
Oh, I don't know. All I know is I just sat in my car because my car was probably smaller than that freaking bear. I had a Ford Escort back then.
Easily.
Yeah, he could have just probably mauled the car and still just opened me up like a can of Spam and just had his way, because I mean it was a big son of a bitch.
Yeah, once you get through the crunchy outside, the inside soft.
Right. Yeah, well, the good stuff's inside. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Center.
So after I seen it, because we get black bears up here, and black bears, I don't know. I don't worry about black bears. They just they're more worried about getting their backs itched. They'll sit there against trees and itch their backs and kind of look at you, and then they'll go away.
Like Joe.
Kind of like Joe, yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Just wants his back scratched, wanders around, long shaggy hair.
Feed him a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, he's good. Okay, so Pierre's the leader of the group. What's kind of special about these dwarven fur? Do we have anything special that they do or have, or somebody that's in there?
They have, because they're out there doing this stuff with, they have a broad selection of like traps of varying complexities and sizes.
Okay.
And then a few of them will probably have like night killer crossbows.
Ooh, using some of our old stuff there, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, like these heavy Crankwin, crossbows, and that take several rounds to load and take 2 dwarves to carry, kind of thing. Yeah.
Night killer crossbows. You know the story behind that one, Mike? Did you ever hear us talk about?
I know about the Genoese and the Pavis and the shield holder, and it took a crew of 3 to load those things to get off about 2 shots a minute.
Well, yeah. So
I don't know the story of the ones in the RPG you guys were playing.
Yeah, well,
they're basically the same. Yeah.
Yeah, years ago when we were playing GURPS quite a bit, and then so GURPS had a system where they had like passive defense, and then you had your DR, which was direct resistance. So that took resistance or points off the damage. So even if you got through the DR, so if you did a D6 and you had a DR 4, then you only did 2 points of damage, kind of thing. So what we did for the city guard, so we came up with this campaign where the whole party, we had a whole campaign where the party played city guards. That was their job. So we turned the tables on them. So now they had to defend the city against drunk adventurers, which was, and it helped us develop the city guards. So how do you, what do these, basically the National Guard of military things that are going to do against actual like special forces guys that are coming out, kind of thing. And what is going to give them the advantage? One, their organization. We set up a system, but the big thing and this was specifically for GURPS. We gave these Nightcrawler crossbows where they were up to the highest strength, so they could get through any armor. You shot them, and it didn't matter if you had plate mail on them, because in GURPS 3d6 was like devastating damage, because usually like a top character might have like a 12 health, maybe. So if you did penetrating damage, so whatever was penetrating damage got doubled on top of it. So say you had that 5 DR now, and I did let's just say an average of 12 points of damage, 7 still gets through, and then that gets doubled to 14. That's pretty much going to knock down any adventurer in the city. So that's why adventurers behaved very well in the cities, because they didn't want to get shot by a night killer crossbow. And then we can just call it the night killer crossbow because they're the ones who wear plate mail. So
does any GM though really like it when your players go to town and they screw, and they're not afraid of the guards and they screw with the guards? And that's never, I don't know, it was never a good thing. I mean, I always wanted them to be afraid of getting in trouble or breaking laws or whatever. But.
Well, I mean, as I don't know if you remember, like when those guys were going into Scorn, they had to be very careful of because Paul almost got himself in, he just got himself into a little bit of trouble. But yeah, it's like in Rob's campaign, because Rob's campaign when he was doing like the City State of the Invincible Overlord, it was basically his campaign, but we definitely interwove our campaigns together quite a bit, just playing together for umpteen years, umpteen decades. And it became kind of like it's funny, once we had the players play city guards, they gave the city guards a lot more respect after that. Like when they came down and through, it was fun. It almost changed.
They took it more seriously.
Yeah. It definitely changed, because before that you'd always have somebody fireball in the fucking tavern.
Yeah. Well, you remember you read the Thieves' World books, right?
Oh yeah, yep.
And they had the guards there that had come into the city and occupied from the other. I forgot what they're called, but they had the hellhounds. Yeah, you didn't mess with them.
No, yeah, they were their own special forces that would come into town and take care of things. Because I've kind of learned through the year. I mean, you've got a crew that are going to go in there and they're going to cause chaos and havoc, no matter where they go. And sometimes they're going to be able to do that because they're just an overwhelming force. But the thing is, they're going to drive out pretty much any benefit they're going to get from that place.
Yeah.
Because the business people aren't going to want to do business with them. They're going to move. They're going to, or they'll run to the local lord and maybe get some help, maybe not.
I feel like it's more of a newbie player thing when they're still kind of in the
murder hobo kind of stage.
Exactly. Yeah. The murder hobo phase. Yeah. They're testing limits in a fantasy game that are like,
and I think
that can go do anything.
Yeah. Right. I remember a really good blog post years ago, and I can't remember where I'd find it. It was basically kind of like how to DM that sort of thing. Is like, okay, the city guards are going to know this stuff's going to go on, so they're going to, find ways to neutralize spellcasters. They're going to show up with plenty of people. They're going to have nets. They're going to have You're going to have all these mundane ways to disrupt things, basically, or like the old Ron White, line of, I'm not sure how many it was going to take to throw me out of the bar, but I saw how many they were going to use. And I use that line quite a bit in my own campaign. Just I mean, not like my characters are full on, my players are they're still doing heists and still being kind of hobo-y every once in a while, but I have used that line multiple times in the campaign of the entire city guard has shown up to show you out of town.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, they won't do it again.
Yeah, because I mean,
And then
I
they're
mean,
snuck back into town again just because, that sort of thing. But
I think sometimes it's good to have like consequences for that stuff. I mean, I think it helps drive you can't act a fool everywhere, but like if you got newbies, I'll probably let them nuke the tavern and everything. But what I might do is like, then the most horrible creature in all of fantasy will visit upon them, the tax collector, and make them pay taxes until they repair everything they destroyed,
right.
or they're
Yeah.
not allowed back in, kind of thing.
Yeah, there are consequences even in a fantasy game.
Right.
Yeah,
absolutely.
this kind of reminds me of that idea we were talking about the other day about Chubby said, yeah, he would do it if we want to do a gauntlet in Shadow Dark, and he would GM it for just a one-night session like this. Because I for 2 years since I got introduced and looking at Shadow Dark, I was like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do the DCC funnel. That's for new players to learn the game and all that. But I'm thinking, maybe I shouldn't just hand wave the thing. I don't really know. I've never played one.
Right.
Maybe there's something valuable to learn from that, from going in and playing a 0-level character and all you have is a spoon, or whatever.
Right.
I know that we actually did roll a DCC game in one of our local groups, that we actually played our funnel characters as established characters, through basically through another dungeon kind of thing. So we actually got to exercise them a little bit. So
that was always my complaint about DC. Not complaint about DCC, but like I only got to play it at cons, so every time it was a funnel, and I got tired of playing the funnels because I actually wanted to play a character. I wanted to have somebody that could do something.
Yeah,
that besides die. And then what I didn't like about the funnels, since they had so many characters, I don't know what it was. They didn't let me do cool stuff. Like there's that one funnel where you're climbing up the ice wall, and you then like halfway up the ice wall, this like ice leopard jumps out and starts swatting people off the ice wall and dying and everything like that. So I thought it would be really cool. My character at that time had like a grappling hook and a rope. So I thought, well, I'm going to throw my grappling hook around the tiger who's just right above me, and then I'm going to jump off the wall. He wouldn't let me. He's like, well, you can't do that.
You can't sacrifice your own character for the next character.
Man, I just thought that, well, if I was going to die anyways, I'd rather die by dragging this little tiger off the wall than me just getting, I don't know. Like
that's just a bad DM.
Yeah,
but they were all like that though. It was just sort of like I want to do something cool, but then like because if you got 8 people playing, you've got 32 characters now.
Right. We had some good. There's a ship based one that I've played, and I think Shannon played it too, and that one was good because that one it's a ticking clock. Situation. You're never going to win. You're never going to win if you stay on the ship.
Oh, I got you.
But because these things are just going to eldritch horrors or whatever like that are just going to keep getting worse. Kind of.
Right. Yeah.
I finally got off the ship, onto another ship and things. So, but yeah, that one wasn't. But even low level ones that I played tend to be a little linear that I've done.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I haven't done the gauntlet, and we can play that out. But in my solo dark game, I did roll up a 0-level character for a support character, and I got what's his face, Coalface here, and Coalface is just some dumb kid. But he's kind of strong, low intelligence, but he was like the groom, the stable groom at the inn they were staying in. The characters were staying in. So he acted as a guide to show them out of town to this site they were going to go, and that was where the dungeon delve was going to be.
Sure.
He led the mule. He gave them more gear slots to carry stuff.
Right.
Not much of a fighter, but he's moved up to first level now and has a spear, and they've kind of, the typical hireling thing. So I've experimented with that with a 0-level character, but he probably will never be anything else in the game other than just some schnook who's helping out, and they take care of him and pay him a couple of whatever silver a week or something. I mean, by
Yeah.
the time you're second or third level, there's a lot of this stuff you wouldn't be doing by yourself.
Right.
And that's my other contention with the first zine called War Horse, which is all about mundane travel stuff, but also war horses
Right.
and joust knights and things. It's like, why would any third level character, once you get a little jingle in your pocket, why the hell would you be walking anywhere?
Yeah.
You know, what's his name? Bob Worldbuilder did a video today I watched where he went out and tried to walk the equivalent of 4 hexes of 6 mile hexes, 24 miles in an 8-hour travel day. And he talked, and I mean, he's just in shorts and a t-shirt with a little bit of gear, water, his cell phone, a little camera. He didn't have, you know, a pack on of 80 pounds of stuff or anything like that.
Right.
And he was blown away with how incredibly hard it was. And he's like, maybe we do need to, you know, tamp this down. He's going to try to do a test simulating the weight of armor, or God forbid, what if the weather changes and it's really hot, or it's snowing, or it's raining?
Right.
Those travel rates go, you know, down really.
Yeah, that's one of the things that when he first started out, he was doing a lot of that stuff of like, okay, how far can I move? How can I
or drink a potion? If you saw that one, how fast can you drink a potion?
And so that that was kind of one of the things that endeared me initially to him, that, you know, he and his friends were out there actually trying to do this stuff in real world just to see if it was realistic. Or
what do y'all use for travel rate? I mean, what do you use for like a walking travel rate for a party on foot? And, you know, he didn't get into whether you had halflings or dwarves or 2
hexes.
6 mile hexes.
Yeah,
that's what I'm using too on a hex map. And if they're mounted with horses and a wagon or something like that, I'll give them 3. And then I have some exhaustive rules if they push it and go further, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, I always say, like, the character's as fast as their slowest person.
Yep.
Right.
So if you have like halflings, they're not going to go as far as humans. If you got, you know, and then if they're in the wilderness, or if they're, so I basically just kind of guess, but it's usually I use the rule as 6 for this. So if they can get through like a 6 mile hex, the only reason I do 6 mile hexes is because that's what my hexes are. If there were 5 of them, I would use 5 if it was 5 mile hexes, but for some reason, so that way, if they're a little slower, I can either divide that into thirds, so I can either make, you know, 2, 4, 6, or I can divide it in half, make it a 3, or just do the 1, 3. So it gives me increments that I could use for progress, and with the different variables and whatnot. So, because like when you guys were traveling through the Comor Forest when it was wintertime, I slowed down your progress because it was freaking wintertime, and, you know, but when you guys were on the trail, you know, I think you were traveling 2 or 3 hexes a day, and then you were only traveling, I think, 1.5 or 2 hexes a day when you didn't have a trail or whatever. So
yeah, I'm looking at my, you know, the usual handy dandy references. The Oregon Trail is 15 miles a day average.
15 miles a day,
yeah, which, you know, gets us 2 hexes essentially.
But how many people really do?
They're going to be a little bit, that's going to be a heavier, you know, slower travel. You got oxen or whatever like that, you know. Because
Mike was bringing up horses, but how many times do people actually use horses in game?
They don't. That's one of my major beefs with all of them. All of them. I mean, the game is based. It's not realism. I'm fine with that. But it is based on a race called human beings, Homo sapiens, right?
Right, and I think the reason why
first thing we did, we found something we could ride. Yeah.
And if you have domesticated horses in your world setting, then why in the world, or even mules, you know, and other beasts of burden,
right? But I think why people don't use them is because they cost a lot and they're easy targets.
Yeah,
because I mean, you're always going through hazardous territory. You're always getting attacked by something or something.
Right.
Well,
something's going to get, you know.
This is a good talk for another day. In fact, I was making notes when Tim's like, I'm getting on now. I'm like, oh, holy cow. I was writing up notes for discussion on travel. There's a couple.
Cool.
I like Into the Weird and Wild, has a cool system. Knave to me has a good
haven't read that yet.
Yeah,
I've got it. I haven't read it for a while.
Is it pretty good?
I have read it.
It's a great book. I mean, on a lot of different levels. I'd say
because doesn't he have a lot of different books? Like a whole bunch of
Into the Citizen Citadel is about cities, and that's
Okay.
kind of different. There's like rules for like running the Fritz Lieber if you want to do a Fafford and the Grey Mauser thieving
Lankmar,
across
yeah.
rooftops and things like that.
Right.
Oh, that's cool. I do like that stuff too.
Yeah, I have the PDF for that one, but I have the printed book and the PDF for Into the Weird.
I have to look in it because I've been seeing it, but I never pulled the trigger on them.
It's a really cool, really cool. I wouldn't even call it a system. I mean, it's kind of system agnostic, really. You're going to use it with Shadow, Dark, or BX or whatever you're playing, probably.
Kind of just like a little toolkit to use for whatever game you're playing.
Yeah, but there's a bestiary and there's all kinds of other stuff, and there's some NPCs of the forest that are creepy and almost kind of a Dolmen Wood folklore feel to it. There's some creepy, rotty, witchy stuff. Yeah, it's worth the money, I think. But anyway, yeah, so travel's just something that, because I do a lot of that in my solo dark, I've got my hex map and I'm mapping it out as I go, and I'm trying to develop how often do I roll for weather. But travel to me is like in the old days when we used to play it, it was a hand wave and all we did was roll for an encounter, roll for an encounter. If you're running, that's all you're doing, wandering monsters, and nobody cares. I mean, it's meaningless. It doesn't, especially if you're actually trying to go from point A to point B in your campaign, and your players know that, well, we're leaving the city because we're going to find this castle here and the ruins underneath it or whatever. Okay, how many days is that? How do we get there? So I'm playing with divvying that up into a couple of simple little 2 pages of rule set. And I know everybody has their own version, their own home version of it. But you're right, it's something that doesn't get talked about. And I feel like horses should be used a lot more. And I don't buy that anybody could use a lance, right? A knight class is a very set, if you even have feudalism at all. But you don't really need feudalism either, because the lance came from Persia, right? And they were the cataphracts, and those guys were using the lances there, and the Europeans kind of picked up on that idea, and it became the armored knight. Anyway, that's a whole different history thing. But I don't think everyone has to have a knight in their world setting. But if you do, then it should be based probably on vassalage and a career path. So how do you have a level 1 knight that, doesn't know, unless you're playing Pendragon, that's a different thing. Back to Dragon again. But anyway, you guys looked at what I had written, but I need to play it out. I need to play it out and see how it really works. I have done some jousts, but I did the field jousts, which are a friendly honor thing of 3 rounds, and there's certain rules. It's not deathly combat. Right. I need to play it more. I think people skip horses is because mounted combat. What bonus do I get? And can everybody ride a horse? When I introduced horses into my solo game, I said, I'm going to roll just a die 6 for each character in their background. Did they ever learn how to ride? Because there are people that just don't, or didn't.
I was going to say there probably a lot don't, because they can't afford to keep a horse.
Yeah, Joe Peasant, common this person or that person, probably has never been on a horse.
Right. Yeah, I mean, all the guys in my campaign have horses, and they just kind of, they're high enough level that they can, just keep replacing horses, or the horses get left at one city and they buy new ones when they get to the next one, kind of thing. And
Joe's campaign, that's the way they were we were using horses in his too.
So, and I did kind of arm wave travel, especially in areas that they've already traveled through, unless I want to drop a encounter on them or a set piece fight or something like that.
And my problem is that in my world, it's not a problem. It's pretty populated, so there are road systems. So why would you ever go off it's got to be something extraordinary to have true wilderness overland travel in a dangerous place,
right?
And then your rate's really going to slow down. And I like the Shadow Dark thing. I'm sure other systems have it too, where you have to determine each hex: is it relatively safe, or is it risky, or is it really dangerous and more opportunities for bad things? But I don't like the random roll thing for wandering monsters out. I do it more like a point crawl, where I create little mini scenarios and then I scatter them and use them as I kind of course I'm doing solo, but even when I GM with my group, I've done them that way in 5e. I think
it's more effective to do it that way.
That way there's and some of them should be humor, some of them should be horror, some of them should be resource based. Some of them should be. I saw somebody had this idea, and I used it once. The campfire idea, where at the end of the day, you're around the campfire. tell me a story out of your backstory about this or that and make something up, right? Because they all had little short backstories.
Right.
And that was kind of fun as well. So anyway.
Yeah. I think somebody's doing a campaign on that. They're doing these. Well, let's see if I still have them. Yeah. No, maybe I'm not going to look for them. But I got campfire cards. And I think they do pretty much.
Is that I bet that's from that Philip Reed in Austin, Texas here.
No, they're not from him, but they are from another guy.
He's going to be at North Texas, and I'd done a little review on his Tomb of Zines thing, and we started talking on X, and so.
Oh yeah, he's a super nice guy. Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah, I think I've got a couple of his products somewhere too.
Yeah, once I looked him up on Drive-Thru, I was like, "Holy cow! This guy's got even outside of the Steve Jackson stuff, he's got a ton of products out there, and a lot of card sets."
Is that Weird and Wild? Those Perilous Wilds. No, I don't know what I did with them, but they're probably, I don't know. My card sets are usually in one spot. That's where I got my X card from. It's not this is what came. This was one of the cards in the. I guess if you're,
I don't have that problem.
If your campfire story gets too racy or problematic.
You know what? I thought about when I was listening to a lot of the Kelsey Western Reaches stuff right before her launch. She was talking about part of their next wave is to start trying to do deals with retailers, with the game stores and so forth.
Yeah,
Shadow Dark, and I thought, maybe there's a really good one near me, but they play mostly card games or miniatures games, even
I think most
stuff, which I love those too. But I might volunteer to go up there and talk to the owner and just say, look, I'll put up a thing, and if I can get some Shadow Dark players, I'd be glad to GM it and try to build some players. There might be some there.
Yeah, I've had, when I've run Shadow Dark for through Meetup for one shots and stuff like that, I've usually had a full table and I get a nice span of folks playing, too, of different backgrounds and. People are familiar with the game, or people are coming from other games, or something like that.
Are those the ones you run at the tavern, or is that?
My various brewery games. I'm moving from brewery to brewery right now. I haven't run a game for a little while, so I might do it next weekend. It's a 3-day weekend, but there's usually somebody around, and if I don't have any plans of getting out of town.
And have your non-alcoholic beer when you DM, or?
Yeah, I usually start with an NA for the first one, and then we move into the leaded versions for the.
Oh, okay. Then you get into the more serious stuff. I got you.
Yeah, that's when the the session really picks up speed,
kicks into overdrive. That's funny.
I have a. I'm curious. I've got. I have it laying around. It Fell from the Sky is a. One that I picked up, and it's kind of like a low-level version of Barrier Peaks.
What was that again, Vance?
The adventure is called It Fell from the Sky.
Oh, okay, that's the name of it.
And it's essentially like a low-level Barrier Peaks.
Okay.
So everybody is like, kind of the first through third. Standard, this thing crashes into and destroys the village that they're about to visit. And, and then they go poking around and
the thing from,
exactly. Yeah. And so I need to read it a little closer, but I'm really actually kind of interested in running it just because it looks.
That's a great premise. Yeah.
Yeah. And I forget, I've got it laying around here in my piles somewhere, but I can't remember who the author was, and I can't remember if I got it through a Kickstarter or if I just got it through Drive-Thru.
Yeah, I'm trying to see what it is, and all. Apparently, it's a true story. I fell from the sky.
Yeah, of course it is.
The true story.
You've got what's his name wrote Color Out of Space. And if you've never seen that one, that's the one with Nick Cage is a really great version of that.
Yeah,
that Lovecraft story. It's scary as hell.
Yeah, like good old Lovecraft. Yeah.
I'm going to do a video on, I don't want to do too many on books and things, but I watched a couple of good videos and listened to several short stories by Lord Dunsany,
Yeah.
Mhm.
the Irish peer
Yeah.
who wrote all these things on first
Oh,
drafts,
yeah.
never rewrote them. And
have you ever listened to his biography?
well, not the full biography, no, but I watched some longer form videos.
Yeah,
on
I
his
listened to
career
it
and what he wrote.
on a podcast or something.
Crazy
one
stuff.
time.
I mean, the Boer
Yeah, he
War,
was
World
kind
War
of
One. Yeah, and then he's there at the Easter, Rising in Dublin, and gets shot in the head with shrapnel. And
yeah,
Michael Collins was buried with his belt. That when he was escaping in the street, his belt somehow got shot off his uniform, and that was like a trophy for the Irish Republicans. They kept it. It was buried with Michael Collins. And then what was the other? There was some other artifact from that battle. Anyway, just a fascinating life. But one really great story is the Sword of Welleran. The Sword of Welleran. And it's like a 20-minute story on audiobook you can listen to. But the names and everybody, I mean, everybody in the 20th century point back to him in 1905 in his first book. And Tolkien and Lovecraft, Clark Ashton Smith, and Arthur Clarke, and I mean, the list goes on and on. That descriptive way of writing, where it's more about the story and the mood you create than the actual,
Yeah, he's one of my favorite. He's one of my favorite authors for the early. I mean, he just his stuff is good. I've never read his biography though, or knew anything much about him.
I haven't read anything full, but I heard the whole thing, and because he was a lord, and he had land, and
right.
But he was also had that kind of adventurous, and he was he was an athlete. He had
he was the pistol shooting champion or something, cricket champion of Ireland, and
right, he was kind of one of those guys that did a lot of stuff. So the little adventure I mentioned, was a Kickstarter, and it was from Tom Wilson.
It was from Tom. Oh, I might have that then, actually, because I got a bunch of his stuff. So I don't know what I all have them, but okay.
Yeah,
so
it's and it looks like I need to read it and get myself schooled up and on it enough to run it. But I think it could be a good. I think it's a little bit longer than a one shot, but it's just kind of fun to see how fast how far we would get in a
absolutely. 3 hours. And Tom, I always, because Tom and I mean, I don't know Tom that well. I've met him once at he runs ShireCon, so I got to meet him there briefly, and then I've been into stuff. But him and I kind of have the same kind of adventure aesthetic in a lot of ways. So I always like his stuff.
ShireCon's in Jersey, Connecticut. Where is that?
Connecticut.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's like on the I was up there one time. Was there with Joe and Rob when they did their Titanic sword battle. I cannot find that video now of me and that I recorded. I wish I did, because now that Joe shows his face, I could actually share that video, make $1 billion. Just say,
I don't know that anyone wants to see Joe that badly, but
but he loses, so they'll pay him to lose, to watch him lose. So
I was doing a thing on my blog and I messed it up today, but I'm going to post it anyway. Probably the best film-made melee combat of guys in armor and swords and how they really fought with kicking and pushing and cheating and hitting each other is from Roman Polanski's Macbeth in 1971. And if you just type in Polanski Macbeth final battle on YouTube, you'll find it. And Macbeth, you remember the story, Macduff is able to kill him at the end, but just that sequence of combat is so awesome. And I posted something on X about it this week, because I posted the link and I'm like, it dawned on me that no fantasy role-playing game set of rules of any kind will ever approach the reality of guys pushing and they drop their sword, so then they kick the guy in the leg and try to hook his arm and trip him
at the end.
It's so dirty.
I saw somebody doing one of the YouTubers, I can't remember if it was Scala Gladiatoria or one of the similar, that was actually did kind of a play-by-play of that fight.
Oh wow! Yeah.
Or an analysis of fight analysis of her, and
Interesting.
it's that it and called out the same things of just of course it's a stage fight, so there's the various beats in that you're going through, but they're talking about the kind of the rhythm of the fight, and then just exactly these things of you're watching these two guys just wear each other out.
Yeah, they
Right.
exhaust each other so fast, and then it becomes daggers and trying to find that spot in the armor to stick something through that
and
plate.
then that head rolls down the stairs.
Yeah,
for a
that's
final
great.
flick. Yeah.
Oh, don't spoil it, Vance. Don't tell anybody Macbeth
I
gets
know.
killed at
Oh,
the end.
damn it. Yeah. Well, we mentioned the name of the play.
Oh yeah, we never should have said it.
We've now cursed ourselves and everybody who's listening to us. Yeah.
Well, we're not lesbians.
Speaking of Shakespeare.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, way to go, Vance. Huh?
Yeah, exactly. Good job, Atkins.
There's another Shakespeare play that I only read last year for the first time, The Tempest.
Yep.
Right.
All about, it's a little island off of Naples, and the one brother or something, I forgot the whole story, is no spells and is like a wizard, and he's on the island with his daughter.
Yeah, it's an interest. That one's I think that might be one of my, besides Much Ado About Nothing, I think that's my favorite Shakespeare.
Yeah.
That'd be a good one for Professor DM, because he did Macbeth. He called it Macbeth, and no one's really done a Hamlet for D&D, like or this kind of gaming, like a. I was a scenario.
No, not a Hamlet. Yeah, he did the Macbeth. Yeah. Peter Greenlee, director, did a great interpretation of Tempest called Prospero's Books movie. And I think Sir John Gielgud was the main character.
Oh, okay.
I highly recommend it. I mean, I all of Greenlee's stuff is great. He's very good with staging and color and his visuals are awesome. The first one I think of his, or the second one of his I saw was Thief, his wife, the cook, and her lover.
Oh, yes, yeah.
And it's one of those great ones. Like within the first, 2 or 3 minutes, you want the thief to die very horribly, and you have to wait for the entire movie for him to get his comeuppance.
That's with Helen Mirren in it, right?
Yes.
She plays one of, I remember seeing that when it came out. Yeah. It's been a long time, but I'm a fanboy of Helen Mirren.
Yeah.
That's
not a
hard thing to
easy to
having been introduced to her in Excalibur at the at the bright age of 13 or whatever I was at the time. Yeah.
I got one for you guys. I'm listening to this one on Audible. It's called His Black Tongue by Mitchell Luthi, Luthi, and I listened to it when I walked the dog in pieces, and it's set again in 100 Years War type setting with demons, and I mean the music is good. It's a little loud in places, but the narration's good. Creepy as balls. This thing is like straight up dark D&D Shadow Dark kind of stuff.
It's called His Black Tongue.
His Black Tongue. Yeah, there's some really dark.
Christopher Buhlman, is that his name?
No, that's the other guy. That's the Black Tongue Thief, but Between Two Fires is excellent. That's a journey travel thing too, where they're going across France to get to Avignon.
Oh, you said Mitchell, right? That's the
Mitchell is his first name. His last name is Luthi. I don't know how you pronounce it. Luthi. But
when they start putting funny shapes above the letters, I'm out. Yeah.
No. Well, that would be his characters, but and they're doing kind of faux French accents, so everybody sounds like LeBeau from Hogan's Heroes, but maybe not. maybe not that bad. But the scary parts are downright scary. With these demons.
That sounds like a cool premise. I kind of like that.
Yeah, it's there seemed to be, I didn't even realize this till I read that Between Two Fires. There's a whole genre of this historical, but what if the heaven and hell were, the real things, and demons and angels and all this stuff set against a medieval background, and it is rich with ideas, for what we play. So
Yeah, well, I told you guys that one of our things when we drive, we listen to audiobook, and short stories and stuff. And a lot of Robert E. Howard is one of our go-tos and stuff because first of all, we have to wait. We have to wait how long through the story until he first mentions thews.
Thews.
Yeah. Conan's glistening thews or whatever like that.
Right.
But
is that like your drinking game when you're driving?
Yeah, basically, yeah. Or how many times that word is used, and then he has a lot of other like kind of catch descriptions,
tick words, yeah.
But there's I can't remember which ones we saw. I listened to a few that I hadn't heard before that were really cool and had some good stuff, and then there's a couple of them in there that I really like Rogues in the.
Yeah, Rogues in the what is it? Rogues in the. Yeah, it's like he only comes in at the end. Really, it's
right. Yeah, I listened to. There was two of them that I listened to where he was actually kind of almost a secondary character.
Yeah,
and there was another one which actually was the inspiration for the crucifixion scene in Conan the Barbarian the movie, and I forget the name of that one too, but he again, he's like the captain of the guard. He gets caught, and then there's the whole bunch of the plot is the city trying to deal with these intruders, and then next chapter Conan's showing up with his band of desert miscreants to.
It's Rogues in the House, Vance. By the way, I pulled it up. I didn't look at it. I couldn't remember either. It's on my audio playlist.
Yeah.
Stuff. Yeah, that's a really good one for like a city adventure. You could read that and get a bunch of ideas.
Yeah, it's a good crawl and stuff. So,
very cool.
Yeah, and there was an island one that I hadn't heard before that was really good.
Queen of the Black Coast or something like that. Or
yeah, I've got that. I've listened to that one before. This is a non-pirate. It's
a non-pirate.
Just somebody fleeing through a swamp. He rescues her, and then they take off in a boat, get to this kind of haunted island kind of situation.
That sounds like Live and Let Die with what's it, Roger Moore.
Roger Moore there. Yeah.
They're in a swamp. There's some voodoo.
Yeah.
And then there's some jet boats. Oh, and then there's the Jackie Gleason character from Smokey and the Bandit.
Yeah, exactly.
Jackie Gleason
playing the same character.
Comedy relief.
Sheriff Roscoe P. Coltrane or whatever.
Yeah, you're right.
I'll give you my one cool book thing that it's actually by Michael Moorcock, but it's not one of his well-known ones, but it's my favorite one by him. It's called The Warhound and the World.
I always knew what you were going to say.
Love that book. Oh God, that's such a good book. Yeah, that's one of my favorites. And I love that he never wrote a sequel.
30 Years War, isn't it? Yeah,
during the Black Plague and Lucifer trying to make good with God and you gotta
there's some great Moorcock stuff that isn't Elric. I mean, there's Prince Forum and other champion characters that are really pretty cool too.
Yeah, that's definitely one of my favorites.
One of my buddies had an archer, a character named Rakir, based on Rakir the Red Archer from the when we were in high school.
Yeah, I found the ones that we were listening to. So Shadows in the Moonlight is the one that I just mentioned, where he's on this desert, not desert island, but this island with this woman he's found, and there's pirates and old things, and Which Shall Be Born is the one where he's kind of the secondary character in the crucifixion scene. And then there was a non-Conan one, which is basically kind of an African lost colony adventure called The Voice of El Lil that was really good of like these two 20th century adventurers stumbling upon this lost civilization.
Kind of the Edgar Rice Burroughs stuff.
Very, very Edgar Rice
Same
Burroughs.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sounds
And
like it, yeah.
yeah, so those were a lot, you know, those, yeah, as I said, those are kind of our go-to, you know, some of our go-to listening while we're driving and on road trips and stuff, because it's, you know, I just his color, the color of his language and stuff like that is, and his use of language is just, you know.
Yeah, I've started like finding little quotes I like the one from the Albigensian Crusade where they're sieging that town, Béziers, and the papal legate. They're like, well, how will we know the Christians from the Catholics? He's like, kill them all. God will know his own. Right?
God will sort them out.
So I'll go write that down, and I'm keeping a list of little sayings that I don't want to throw in a ton of flowery, you know, if I'm GM for something like that, but at the beginning or at the right moment, a good line like that is just worth $1 million.
Oh yeah.
Well, yeah, and then the thing is like, yeah, we talk about NPCs, or there's a lot of the how to do NPCs, but yeah, you know, the kind of we were talking about that prior time we were chatting, but that's that one thing is like that catchphrase or that thing that it, you know, just immediately shows their character, or you know, kind of what their, you know, their agenda or their drive is, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because I mean, like we talk about the NPCs at the time and everything, but what the hardest thing to do sometimes is emulate a person, because this person has been, you know, saying these sayings, knows when to say them, and like you're just trying to come up with it at the moment's notice, and you're just kind of scrambling sometimes, and and it doesn't kind of sometimes work out, but once you get playing the NPCs, like if you guys ever come across like Hugo, I got him down pat. If you come across certain characters that I've played over and over again, I can go into more depth and, you know, really play up on those things. So
I was saying my players in my campaign have run into the same, you know, there's a handful of NPCs that they've run into multiple times, and in many cases they've become allies, or at least, you know, resources or whatever, and so that's you get those voices, and you know, and they're, you know, in your picture in their head and of this person.
Absolutely, because you can actually, when you know them that way, you can start thinking like them and not just trying to guess or something. And I think that
you slip into your cast of characters that you've used for years, and give them
your cast characters, your movie reference, you know, kind of, you know, visuals or vocalizations or whatever, and your tropes, whatever you need to, and it's, I don't want to say it's not hard, but it becomes kind of a rhythm.
Yeah, it grounds you into something, gives you a kind of a framework to work with and whatnot.
Well, tropes
years
like
ago.
I'm sorry, Tim. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say that like one of my my successful NPCs years and years ago, I played this slaver guy. I don't even remember his name, but I modeled him after John Cleese in A Fish Called Wanda. And he became it was the players. I mean, that was out of the whole campaign, that was the one person they remembered, was that, and I can't remember what his name was in the thing, but
Cornbone.
Oh, it was so funny playing him, and just how sadistic and nasty he was, and whatnot. But
with a smile, whatever.
Yep. It was fun. But, all right, guys. Well, I'm gonna head off. Thank you guys joining for me tonight.
Go get some food. Thanks. Yeah, that was fun to stretch the brain a little bit. I really appreciate that.
More fun doing our own thing sometimes than watching everybody else's Friday night thing. But like I said, Lord Matthias or Mateus or whatever, he was saw sick, so he was canceling his show tonight. But that doesn't start till 15 more minutes from now, but it's off tonight.
Oh, it doesn't start till 10. Yeah, I figured I was going to start at 7, so I would. Because usually I don't run these things this long. This is a long one for tonight.
Yeah.
Well, I hope we helped with advance things with the.
This is just sort of my exercise that I just do, because I don't know if you've seen any of my other ones. I just get on, just kind of do it, get some feedback from if I have anybody watching, and just write stuff up. And that's how I get that this finished from the last time. Got that all done. I got to mail those out now because everybody got their address changes in, so I got to send them out now.
Yeah, the collaborative exercise is fun. I enjoy it.
Yeah, because I do it so much by myself and isolation that sometimes it's fun just to go in directions you weren't expecting. Because trust me, I would have never had a hex with French Dwarven Fur Traders in it. I would have never thought of that. So yeah, so I like kind of messing around with that, and it makes it fun. So,
good.
Well, guys, thank you everybody for joining.
Y'all have a good weekend, and we'll see you Monday night. And Vance, maybe we'll be playing your thing soon. And if y'all want to, I'll just have to break out. I would like to play that Horse Lord of Tanashorn thing for my zine.
Well, whenever you're ready to do that, just let us know. And
just change the name of it. We won't know.
Yeah. Horse Lord of Derbyville.
Yeah,
exactly. Right. And it's not like the great thing about having me. If I read something, probably within
you're not going to remember a thing yet. 2 hours.
No. Yeah. Exactly. I'll read it, and I maybe. But that sounds familiar. Like Vance knows. People use my own maps against me, and I can't remember. It's like, wait, that's my fucking map. I can remember. Yeah, and they get such glee out of that. Yeah.
Was it Sanctuary of Ois? Is that one of yours? Sanctuary of Ois? One of your old ones? No, I'm trying to remember. I know I have a couple of your old ones I downloaded way back when, but when I first
I mean, like right now, I think on my Patreon alone, I have 111. I got it right here. 111 adventures just in the adventure stuff, and then I've probably got another couple dozen that are just independent ones that are on drive through. So I probably got about close to 150 adventures out there in the. But could I tell you if I wrote something?
A big stew after a while.
Right. Yeah. It's like, didn't you write
big gnoll head stew?
Yeah, because somebody asked me, it's like, oh yeah, you wrote this adventure. And I'm like, okay.
Sure. You want my autograph?
No, I did, because they were asking me questions about it. And I was just like, I need to read it again because I do not, because it was like,
sure,
I don't know, like something, because I started writing these things like 17 years ago. So it's like, I can't do that. Don't ask me about my own stuff because then you make me feel stupid.
You can only fit so much stuff in the memory banks,
Oh, God, yeah. So, all right, guys, well, have a good rest of your weekend.
Yeah, enjoy your weekend. Probably see you on a chat someplace.
Yeah, we'll get you on chat, guys.
Thanks for hosting, Tim. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Oh, no problem. Take care.
So long.